for coming today to join us in this hearing on the school opening. And before we continue, let me direct the committee secretary to acknowledge our resource persons for today.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning to our resource persons. For the public hearing on Senate Resolution number 672 and 689 related to school opening, we would like to acknowledge our resource persons. From the Department of Education, we have Assistant Secretary Francis Cesar Bringas, Assistant Secretary for Operations. From the Ministry of Basic, Higher, and Technical Education in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, we would like to acknowledge Director General Abdullah P. Salik Jr., Director Johnny Balawag, and Mr. Jordan Pangilan. From the Philippine Atmospheric Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration, or PAGASA, we would like to acknowledge Ms. Shirley David and Ms. Rosalina de Guzman. From the Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT, we have Director Maria Teresa M. Garcia. From the Philippine Association of School Superintendents, or PAS Incorporated, we have Dr. Romel C. Bautista. From the Philippine Elementary School Principals Association Incorporated, or PESPA, we would like to acknowledge Dr. Ferdinand Milan, Mr. Jomedes Rosete, and Mr. Noel Gilua. From the National Association of Public Secondary Schools in the Philippines, or NAPSPhil, we have the President, Dr. Warlito Rosarial. From the Teachers Dignity Coalition, we have Ms. Olivia de Guzman, Mr. Raymer Chanela, and Ms. Hannah Dionela. From the National PTA Philippines, we have Mr. Wilfredo Rodriguez and Ms. Maria Corazon Regina Sibal. That's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Comsec. Today we'll be tackling two Senate resolutions. Senate Resolution number 689, entitled Resolution Directing the Senate Committee on Basic Education to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation to assess the preparedness of basic education institutions to conduct classes for school year 2023 to 2024 towards the formulation of policy recommendations and complementary or amendatory legislation to ensure the effective and efficient delivery of quality education. So we'll be talking about the preparedness and the preparation of the Department of Education and, of course, other stakeholders in the up-and-coming school opening. So we want to hear from the DepEd a briefing on their preparation, issues that they have encountered. This is actually our second year, actually our first year after the declaration of the lifting of the state of emergency because of the pandemic. No? If you remember last school year, we went back to full face-to-face classes, but it is still under the state of emergency because of the pandemic. But this time, there is no more state of emergency. So this will be the first full face-to-face classes that we'll be implementing outside of the state of emergency. So I'm sure we've learned so many things, no, because of the pandemic, and hopefully we have not forgotten those things that we have learned, and we want to hear from the DepEd and, of course, from our friends from the BARM on their preparation for the class opening. The other one is Senate Resolution 672, Resolution Directing the Senate Committee on Basic Education to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation for a re-evaluation of the critical factors to determine the school opening for the purpose of recommending policy interventions for the effective implementation of Republic Act 11480 or an act amending Section 3 of Republic Act number 7797, otherwise known as the Act to lengthen the school calendar from 200 days to not more than 220 class days. So we also want to hear the thoughts of DepEd in so far as the school break. Basically, there's a raging debate on when the school break should be. Because of the pandemic, we all know that the school break was pushed back to around June, July, August, no, more or less. No, before we used to enjoy summer break, no, meaning we take a break during April and May, no, and those are the hottest months of our calendar. But at the same time, it gives us the opportunity to spend time with our families, no? Because obviously we go out to the beach and we go out to the outdoors during the summer break. But now there's no more summer break. It's the rainy season break. No, and we want to hear the thoughts of DepEd as to what are the plans, if ever there are plans to return to the original summer break, and if we do so, we want to hear from DepEd a sort of a transition plan if ever the decision is to go back to our original summer break. Of course, there are pros and cons that we can consider. I think the advantages of having classes during the summer break, we experience less rains and less floods. No, and right now, for example, we are experiencing torrential rains, and if we have classes right now, obviously those will be postponed or suspended. No, so there are pros and cons, and we want to hear from DepEd and discuss with DepEd what are the pros and cons and the plans on moving back to the original month for the summer break. It's a simple thought, but a raging debate among our constituents. So those are the two um, resolutions that we'll be tackling today. And we'll open with a briefing from DepEd on what are the preparations that we have undertaken. And so far, I know that you have been monitoring the enrollment of our learners. So we want to hear also from DepEd the status of our enrollment. So we start off with DepEd, then we go with, of course, BARM, and then later on we'll go with the other stakeholders who are here with us today. Right?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to everyone. For the Department of Education, as you all know, this week, starting last week, we have already started our Brigada Escuela, and this is the annual activity of the public schools in preparation for the opening of classes. And this is a Brigada Escuela that is based on bayanihan and volunteerism. So we have all stakeholders that are interested to help the department in the preparation of the schools, physically, particularly, and of course, paying attention to those schools that have been damaged by Typhoon Egay and the other habagat, the effect of the habagat and torrential rains. Although we still have around several schools that are still underwater because of the floods. But in these schools, the schools division superintendents as well as the school heads have already been advised to adopt alternative delivery modes in these areas so that they can still push through with the formal opening on August 29. As of date, we have around 440 totally damaged classrooms brought about by the typhoons. And these are the priority of the department when it comes to the implementation of the school building program for this year. And we have a number of schools also that sustained minor and major damages, which are the priority of the utilization of our remaining quick response fund for 2023. And for the non-infra damages like textbooks and SLMs, we are still coordinating with the buffer stocks that are in the warehouses of the regional offices, central office as well, for the provision or replacement of these non-infra damages that some schools have sustained. For the current school year, for this school year, we already have up as to date around 17 million enrolled learners in the public schools. So we are expecting more than 28 million to be enlisted for the coming school year, but we still have until August 26th to complete our enrollment, still ongoing. As for the preparation in terms of the school calendar, we are opening on August 29 and we are ending in June 14 as stipulated in Debit Order number 22, series of 2023, which provides the guidelines on the implementation of the school calendar and other activities for school year 2023-2024. So the opening on August 29 still adheres to the existing law, which states that the school opening should not be before the first day of June and not later than the last day of August. So with this calendar that is stipulated in the debit order, we for this next school year, we are not yet looking positively at an opening for June since we are still ending the school year, the coming school year on June 14, 2024. Um, Yes, I think that would be all, Mr. Chair, unless there are some items that I missed. But with regards to the preparation for the opening of classes, we just have the Brigada Escuela and of course the interagency task force or the Oplan Balik Escuela, where we have a command center that will be set up at the central office, where the different partner agencies like the DILG, the Philippine National Police, and the other agencies are part of the Oplan Balik Escuela, which is also a yearly activity prior to the opening of the school year. Mr. Chair.
All right, we'll tackle first the preparation, ASEC, and we'll focus on the basic ingredients for a successful school opening. No, especially inputs such as classrooms, textbooks, teachers. These are the basics, and you cannot open a class without all of these basic inputs. So we'll talk about uh, classrooms, no? And you mentioned earlier that there are about 340. Let me ask you a question. How many damaged classrooms do we have, no? Overall, nationwide? Not because of just EGAI, but the other calamities that we have encountered. I know that in some parts we have, let's say, volcanic eruptions. In some parts we have um, typhoons. So, then we have floodings. How many classrooms are still in need of repair?
Okay, Mr. Chair, with regards to that, overall, we have established already under our schools infrastructure and facilities trend that the total gap entire the Philippines, covering all our the damages that have been brought about the typhoons and the lack of classrooms in many of our schools, we have a total of 159,000 classroom needs.
150,
59,000 all over the country, Mr. Chair.
159 classrooms needed.
Yes, Mr. Chair. That is
Okay.
the total gap that we have in terms of classroom, in terms of facilities, classrooms particularly.
Needed classrooms. And this includes the, earlier you mentioned 340 damaged classroom?
440, Mr. Chair.
440. Okay. So that includes the 440.
Yes,
Oo.
Mr. Chair.
This 159,000, these are new classrooms.
Yes, Mr. Chair. That's a total of backlog that we have.
That's the backlog. Okay. This does not include the repairs.
No, Mr. Chair. We have also another data for minor
repairs.
repairs and major
Yeah.
repairs.
How many classrooms are those? Do we have that?
We're checking, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Just give us that data. So we have a good view of how much infrastructure do we need to spend, considering that the budget is also just around the corner. So we want to assess how much funds do we need in order to, number one, catch up, no, which is to address the backlog, and then number two, repair, to address those classrooms that are in need of repair. Okay, so just give us the data later on.
Not enough teachers.
Yeah, sorry for a little, I was asking my staff about a slide that I prepared. Let me just let me just show slide number 16. there. And this is data that we called out using the information that you gave us. Um, so basically, we have in the data that provided to us, no, by DepEd, um, there are different categories, no, and one of which we focused on schools with congested classrooms, no, so meaning schools that are above the required 1:, I think it's 1:40, 45, no?
45, Mr. Chair.
Yes, congested with class.
Yeah, to be exact, for primary is 1:32, and then for junior high school 1:42, and then one for senior high school 1:45. So those are the required student to classroom ratio. And then for teachers, um, for primary, which is K to 6, is 1:35. And then for junior high schools, 1:40. And then for senior high school, 1:40. And based on the data that we gathered, 32% of our K to 6 classrooms are considered congested, no? Meaning they go beyond the required 1:32. For junior high school, 41%, no? Almost half is congested. And then for senior high school, it's about 50%. No, so we're seeing better data for kindergarten. In fact, I noticed this in Valenzuela, we don't have problems from K to 6. No? I noticed that. But I also noticed that for senior high school, we have big problems. No? Some of our classroom goes as high as 1:60, no, in Valenzuela. So there's a disparity between K to 6 and senior high school. And I just want to bring this to the attention of DepEd that we're encountering congestion for junior high school and senior high school. But on for an overall, your overall system-wide learner to classroom, that's slide 17, we're actually doing not so bad. No? For K to 6, it's 33 students per classroom. For junior high school, 43 students per classroom. For senior high school, it's 44. So it's not so bad system-wide. But we have pockets of congestion. I'm sure ASEC knows that, no? Especially here in Metro Manila. Mamaya we'll ask some of our friends from DepEd, no, to share with us. But I've seen this personally in Valenzuela. Senior high school is a big problem, no. So we're actually personally I'm in support of that voucher system for senior high school because it's in a way that decongest, no, the public schools by bringing some of our students to our private schools. So I'll just flash slide 16 again. And my question is, itong 159,000, does this include these areas where congestion is happening, ASEC?
Yes, I would say so, Mr. Chair, because the number of backlogs that we have, the 159,000, is based on current enrollment as well, and basing it on the planning standards that you just mentioned of 1:45, 1:42, 1:35, and 1:25 for the kindergarten. So I would say that it covers the congested areas as part of the data presented, Mr. Chair.
How much do we need? Do we have a number to fulfill the 159,000?
Based on the budget that we received for a capital outlay for school buildings, this GAA for 2023, Mr. Chair, it was only enough for more than 7,000 classrooms. 7,100 plus classrooms. That is the number of classrooms that will be built by the budget that was given to the department
For
this current-
2024.
for 2023, Mr. Chair.
For 2023, how much can we build based?
7,100 plus, Mr. Chair.
We, re- we recognize the presence of our minority leader, Senator Coco Pimentel. Thank you, sir.
Morning, sir.
But for next year, how much do we need? Itong 159. Do we have that?
Based on the NEP, Mr. Chair, I think we're getting the same amount for
How much
for
did you
school
get
building.
for 2023? Sorry,
I
how
think
much?
we got 10 billion.
10
Mr.
billion.
Yeah, as far as I can recall,
Yeah,
Mr.
that's
Chair, that's
right.
10 billion.
Yeah.
Treating
So to fulfill that 159,000 backlog, how much do you need?
Our average amount per classroom, Mr. Chair, is a little over 2 million.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if it's a little over 2 million times 159, that's
159,000.
about 397 billion just to fulfill the backlog.
Yeah, that's right, Mr. Chair.
And I understand the budget for this for under the NEP is about
756. For the department, Mr.
For the
Chair.
department.
I think it's 700, around
for classroom
756.
for
For-
classroom for
For
classroom.
classroom, I think we're receiving the same, Mr. Chair. We
About 10
program about 10 billion as well.
Okay, so 10 billion versus the 397 billion needed. That's far cry. So what is is there a remedy? Is there a temporary solution, ASEC? Because we cannot leave 50% of our senior high school schools congested, no, and 41% of our junior high school congested. What is the short-term solution, no, in order to address the congestion in our schools?
Well, as over the past years, Mr. Chair, particularly in highly urbanized areas where they are highly congested, we are up to 3 shifts in some schools or in many schools in the highly urbanized area. And we are looking at the disadvantage of having 3 shifts. That is why we are also prioritizing these particular schools so that we can go down as low as 2 shifts only for this particular school so as not to compromise or to sacrifice the instructional time or the time of the learners inside the classrooms.
Follow up on the shifts. What are the hours?
Well, Mr. Chair, it's a reduced hour. So if NCR is
Para
here,
maintindihan namin.
yeah.
Example.
So kung 3 shifts, Mr. Chair, they usually start around 5:30 to 6 a.m. Yeah, and then they usually end up around 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., Mr. Chair. And that is already reduced hours per shift.
And then shift 1. Sige, para maintindihan ko. Shift 1 starts what time?
6
6
yeah,
a.m.
6 a.m.
6 a.m. to? Ba't di natin alam?
6 to 10.
Dapat alam natin to. To 10 a.m. Okay. Second shift, 10. Eksakto. O may gap, 10:30.
May gap siya for the ingress and egress, Mr.
Mga
Chair.
10:30.
So around 30 minutes and then
10:30 a.m. to
11, 12,
2:30.
2:30, Mr. Chair.
2:30 p.m. And
And then around 3
3
p.m.,
p.m.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7
7
p.m.,
p.m.
Mr. Chair.
And ano lang to, limited number of schools lang to.
Yes, Mr.
Just a
Chair.
few schools to.
Yeah. Well, in Metro Manila, Mr. Chair, we have a lot of them because this is where we have the high congestion. And even in some highly urbanized cities in the major cities in the country, like somewhere in Calabarzon, Cebu City, and we still have. But most of in most of these provinces or cities, nasa 2 shifts na lang sila, Mr. Chair.
Itong first shift, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., then tapos na yung school day ng bata. Tapos na. That's it.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Okay. Si 3 p.m., the entire school year, alam niya 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Siya hindi yung magbabago ng shift.
No, Mr. Chair. They are permanently in these time slots for those shifts.
But sa teacher, siya magtuturo from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., correct?
They will still maintain the maximum 6 hours teaching load, actual teaching, Mr. Chair. That's why it's a little challenge for the school heads to prepare the class programs for these big schools with 3 shifts.
Teacher will never go beyond the 6 hours teaching school
Yes,
time.
Mr. Chair.
The 2
yes.
hours is for preparation, di ba? The 6
Exactly,
hours for
Mr.
actual
Chair.
teaching.
Yeah.
So that's maintained regardless of the shift.
Yes, Mr.
Walang
Chair.
overtime na binibigay sa mga teachers.
We don't give overtime pay for teachers, Mr. Chair. We only give service credits
Service
in
credit.
excess of the mandatory 6-hour actual teaching classroom.
Are there any schools that go beyond 6 hours teaching time because of
Well-
the volume? Because right now what we're saying, we lack
Well,
classrooms.
that is a possibility, Mr. Chair, particularly for example, if I cite a scenario like in an elementary school, for example, where there are 6 grades, or including kinder to grade 6, and there are only 7 teachers. That's only one teacher for one grade level. Therefore, if we go for straight teaching for the elementary, then the intermediate grades would be more than 6 hours actual teaching in those particular cases. So it may happen that
The
way.
reason I asked that, I'll show the slide again. No? Itong slide 16. If you look at the teachers, no, meaning insufficient teachers, 9% of our K to 6 experience insufficient teachers. That's 3,500 schools. Schools yan, not classrooms. No? For junior high school, about 24%. About senior high school, about 34%. And there's a prescribed ratio, no, I mentioned earlier. And the reason why I bring this up is because obviously overworked teachers or teachers that are teaching beyond 6 hours, it's beyond the physical capacity of the teacher to teach, no? And of course, other things will be sacrificed. For example, preparation of the lesson plan. No? So I'm bringing this again to the attention of DepEd because it's not only we're not only experiencing congested classroom, but we're also experiencing in some areas. I'm not saying all, no. In some areas, insufficient teachers, no. So how are we addressing also the case of insufficient teachers?
Well, we have the planning service in the department that takes care of the analysis of teacher deployment, and we are looking at the analysis that there are some schools with excess teachers and there are some schools with lack of teachers. So there has to be a redeployment of these teachers from schools with excess teachers to schools with shortage of teachers. In the allocation of the new teaching positions that is given to the department every year, we are really prioritizing the schools with the high shortage of teachers. And sometimes it is also a challenge since most of the schools with shortages are actually those schools that are not found within the centers of the municipality, and sometimes it's very difficult for teachers to be assigned in areas where it's very difficult to reach. But again, with the 10,000 teacher allocation that we are given every year, it's not enough to cover all our teacher shortages and the demands in the schools where we are over the ideal ratio of 1:45, 1:42, and 1:35. Yeah, Mr. Chair.
To 45 for...
Yeah, 1:45 for
ano
the
yung
senior high and
senior
the junior high, Mr. Chair. And then
Ah.
we have 1:42
Ah.
for the lower grades,
For the
and then
K.
we have 1:35 for the primary grades, 1:25 for the kindergarten.
Sandali, naguguluhan ako sa mga terms natin kasi 1:35 for primary. Ano yun? Grades
Primary is grades 1 to 3, Mr.
1,
Chair.
2, 3. Tama, okay. And then 1:42 for grade 4 to...
The
Six.
junior high, Mr. Chair.
Hindi, junior high, 1:45, sabi mo.
Senior high is 1:45,
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
1:42 for grade 4 up to junior high. Tama
Yes,
ba yan?
Mr. Chair.
To junior high, okay. Okay, doon lang, napatanong ako sa 3 shifts, but therefore there are also schools with 2 shifts.
Yes, there are, Mr.
And then what is the,
many-
the 1 shift is the normal. What
Yes,
is this?
Mr.
What
Chair.
is this? What is the
So
normal?
the
normal
normal would
Oh.
would run from 7:30
Okay.
up to around 3:30 to 4 p.m. in the afternoon, Mr. Chair.
3:30 to 4. Okay, for so.
That's including lunch break and recess time in the morning.
And the total teaching time would be?
The total teaching time would be 6 hours
6 hours.
actual classroom teaching, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
so that's the our That's our normal situation.
Yes,
Okay.
based on-
So
yes,
emergency
Mr. Chair.
situations, 3 shifts, meron din 2 shifts. Can you give me an idea sa 2 shifts? Ano naman ang itsura ng 2 shifts? What would the shifts be?
2 shifts would normally start at 7, Mr. Chair, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, up to 1 o'clock, and then up to 12. And then we'll have 12:30, and then 6 hours.
Up
Yeah.
to 12 noon yung isa,
6:30,
and then
6:30.
12:30 to 6:30 p.m.
Yes, practical
Okay.
or essentially the same time as the 3 shifts, Mr. Chair, but this time since there are only 2 shifts, they have longer time in the school.
Yun na nga. So, okay. So, may parang short change ng ating students sa 3 shifts. Pinaka-short change. But sa 2 shifts, short change din siya compared sa regular. No? And we have planned everything. We have planned our education system on the assumption of a 1 shift, right? Ano?
Yes, Mr. Chair, but
Yun ang planning. Siyempre, from the very start, yun ang ating foundation eh.
yeah.
Okay. So, that's the situation, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately, ang nasa-short change, sinasabi nila, doon pa sa congested areas, and most likely these are in the metropolitan areas or in the capital cities or capital towns. So, yun na yun. So, yung ating metropolitan areas, ang mga kabataan ng short change doon. Shorter hours. And you cannot cram it kasi yung 6 hours teaching time per day, that is everything revolves there eh. Yun yung assumption eh. Nag-adjust lang tayo ng 2 shifts and 3 shifts, but definitely I don't think we can cram na ano naman ang abilidad ng bata sa metropolitan area that you can cram in ilang hours ba yung sa shift mo? In 4 hours. Oh, what you assumed to be normally processed by the same age level learner in 6 hours. So that's our problem, Mr. Chairman. So I'm just here to support you.
Yeah.
Isipan natin mabuti.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Pero
just-
I heard from the Assistant Secretary, you get 10,000 slots, teaching slots
yes.
a year.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So, kunyari, every year ma-hire ninyo yun. Ilang years mapuno na natin yung ideal ratios na sinabi mo? Kasi may assumption din tayo, tumataas din yung student population, ano? Oh.
Well, that it's very difficult to approximate, Mr. Chair, but definitely if we have the input for teachers should come along with the input for basic education facilities. It's good that, yeah, Mr. Chair, for the short-term fix is, of course, the adoption of the alternative delivery mode, which has started during the pandemic time. So for the alternative delivery mode, which we can also do to suffice for the ideal 6 hours inside the classrooms or learning spaces.
Minority Leader, it's a 397 billion peso question. However, I want to think outside the box, because if you analyze a problem, I was trying to pull up some data, but based on my own experience, Valenzuela is a highly urbanized city, and Asek is right. No, I noticed that in senior high school you have 3 shifts, some of them 2 shifts. But they still go beyond the ideal 1:40, more or less, no? Student to classroom ratio. Some of them are 50, some of them meron kaming 60, no? In fact, I was asking our principal, what can we do to decongest? Because we have to look at this from the backdrop of quality education, no? If you have 1:60 students per classroom, you cannot talk about quality education anymore. We all know it's not conducive. There's a reason why there is a standard of 1:40 is to make sure that our teachers effectively teach, and our learners effectively learn. Having a very congested classroom will really negate effective teaching, no matter how good the teacher is. It's very difficult. In fact, I've noticed this in many of our public schools, especially in the urban areas. Not only they're trying to reach out to 60 people inside the classroom, they're battling noise of traffic, noise ng mga manok, mga tumetilaok na manok, no, may video okay sa gilid. It's very difficult. That's very difficult. In the urban areas, I'm talking about the urban areas, no. These are the realities on the ground, no. I am sure yung mga DepEd personnel natin realizes this. No, so my question to ASEC and to DepEd, what solutions outside the box solutions that we can think of in order to address this, no? I'll give you an example. The voucher system, no? Have you run the economics of the voucher system? Because the voucher system, if implemented properly and well designed, you don't need to build a classroom, no? You give the voucher to the student, and the students will go to the nearest least congested school, no matter that whether that's public or private, no. So have we run that economics at least for the urban areas so that we can divert some resources to expand our voucher system in the urban areas, and help alleviate the congestion in our urban area school, no? Have we run that economics? Because we internally, when we were running it, it sounds cheaper than allocating almost 400 billion pesos, no? 400 billion pesos, you build classroom, that will take probably 6 months to build, no? But some of our private schools, and later Kokopea is here, and we saw some data, some of our private schools are experiencing dip in terms of enrollment figures, meaning they have capacity to spare, no? So have you explored that option, at least in the short to medium term?
Yes, Mr. Chair. In fact, during the launching of the Matatag agenda in January in the BEAR Basic Education Report of the Secretary, it was clearly mentioned there that we shall expand the education service contracting, including the voucher system. And there is a pending bill in Congress, which is the expanded GASPE law, which shall include the kinder up to grade 6 as recipients or qualified recipients of a voucher or a service contracting scheme. And part of the agenda also is to implement a public-private school partnership or complementarity framework, which is now in the works. So we have already coordinated or had initial talks with the ADB to help us craft the framework of complementarity, which may go beyond the voucher system alone. So we also have explored the possibility of renting out or renting private schools that have closed because of the pandemic. So we are also exploring that possibility. So we will rent out the facility for the use of the public schools.
Maybe request from the DepEd just to run some simulations, no? For example, and we need your help because you have the data information. For example, just choose 3 cities that are congested, no? For example lang, I would assume Quezon City is also a congested area. Quezon City, and just look at the congested schools, look at the available capacities in the private schools, and then run the economics, whether a voucher system, so that we can encourage public school students to go to private schools and take advantage of their excess capacity. Of course, we can go beyond that, no? Like say quality improvement, but let's address first the capacity issue, because from what we're seeing, again, no, capacity is an issue, and congestion is an issue, and I'll tell you upfront, now the 400 billion is impossible to allocate, but maybe we can allocate a few more for voucher system to decongest some, no? Some of the schools that are experiencing 60 students to classroom, even I heard even more, no? So we'll request from DepEd a simulation and an economics study of economics of that voucher system. Just choose 3 or 4 cities and let's run that economics. We would like to be guided accordingly, whether that can alleviate. We cannot solve it, no, but at least alleviate some areas, no? Yeah.
Yes, we will do that, Mr. Chair. In fact, we're also looking into a study, internal study by the department on analyzing because in the voucher system is actually a mechanism to decongest our public schools. And since we are also providing classrooms prioritizing these areas where there is high congestion. So we are also going to look into how our inputs for additional classrooms are affecting our number of voucher recipients in the areas. Because if logically, kapag dinadagdagan natin ng classrooms, dapat mas tumataas yung absorptive capacity ng school, thereby reducing the number of learners who are opting to go to the private schools. And even if we do not have, for example, increase in the amount of voucher for our budget, we can actually reallocate them based on the result of this study. Mr. Chair.
The original motivation of the senior high school voucher system is to use the excess capacity of colleges. No, if you remember, there was a point that there was no first year, second year college because of the transition, and we issued vouchers so that we can use it to use their excess capacity. But that voucher system remained, no, because of congestion. No, so I just want to study it very carefully with the help of DepEd, and if we can expand that. Is that a cheaper alternative than building classrooms? Considering that some of our private schools will have are experiencing a dip in terms of enrollment. So maybe we can put that together and take advantage of their excess capacity. You know, that's the point that I want to make, and would like to seek the assistance of DepEd to crunch those numbers because you have the data. You know.
Yes, Mr. Chair. In fact, we already have an initial study of the implementation of the voucher system conducted by the Asian Development Bank. We have the results, and since we have newly created the private education office in the department, which handles both the affairs or limited supervision over the private schools and other private school affairs in coordination with our finance strand, we will look into that, Mr. Chair. We will include that in our study, our collaboration with the Asian Development Bank.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll go to another topic, no, and this topic has cropped up in our discussion with early childhood, but it's a common problem across our schools, and it's actually a big problem in our country. No, this is the case of malnutrition, and I know DepEd has allocated some amounts for feeding program. No, and can you guide us on what are the plans to implement the feeding program in our country? Are there any new things or innovation that we are implementing in order to address malnutrition in our schools? And the beauty of the feeding program in schools is they are in the government system. No, if they are outside of the government system, it's very hard to reach them and feed them. But since they're inside the government system, it becomes our responsibility to address the nutritional issues of our learners. And the nutritional issues also affects their cognitive abilities, no, their learning abilities. So again, no, in the talk about improving learner outcomes, we need to make sure that our children are properly fed and they have proper nutrition. So I want to get some briefing on how are we addressing the nutrition and problems with malnutrition in our schools.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We still do have the implementation of our school-based feeding program. In fact, for this fund, the fund for the school-based feeding program for this year will actually expand the coverage to the entire school year. Because in the previous school years, they are only given like 120 feeding days. So the increase in the budget that we proposed for 2024, which is already in the NEP, is from 5 billion. It's up to 11 billion. This is a 105% increase, which is attributed to the increase in number of feeding days from 120 to 220 days, covering the entire school year. Because our findings in the implementation of the SBFP in the past years is kung 120 days lang, yung 80 days na yan, they tend to revert back to the malnutrition status. So kaya kailangan makover namin yung buong school year. And then, of course, we have to consider again the 2-month vacation after they have left school, they go back to their homes. And when they come back, there's a high probability that they are again back to the old status there. So parang year in, year out, we have the same recipients of the school-based feeding program because of the reversion during the summer break or the school break. So we are expanding it to 220 feeding days for nutrition food products and then 47 days to 55 days of the milk component because we have the nutrition food product component and the milk component. However, we are encountering challenges in the milk component because by law should be fresh milk. So we are coordinating with the NDD and the PCC for the provision of such. But our experience in the past years, hindi lahat na all over the country nasusuplayan ng fresh milk. And even if they are supplied with fresh milk, yung shelf life ng fresh milk yung nagiging issue. Some are spoiled. Wala tayong storage facility. Don't have cooling facilities that would keep them, that would increase their shelf life, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Asik. That's good news. No, that's really good news for parents and students that we're expanding from 120 days to the entire school year. No, which is 220 days. No, I think you're absolutely correct. I remember when I was a mayor, that 2-month break. No, can really cause a lot of damage. No? Yung mga nag-intermittent fasting, no, may, di ba, pag intermittent fasting ka ng 1 week, payat ka na, imagine 2 months pa nang hindi kumakain ng tama. No? So, my point of the matter there is that's the same experience we had, no, in Valenzuela. That's why our feeding program is the entire year. No, it's actually not a feeding program, but a lunch program or a meal program. No? So feeding kasi it's only short term and you achieve the desired weight. No? So we converted it into a meal program for our students from the start of the school year until end of the school year. Of course, we will weigh them. But in our experience, you're absolutely correct, Asek, that 2-month break, that gap outside of the school is a big problem as well, no? And we address that by doing targeted programs nilang for students who really need intervention even during the summer. That's an LGU effort na, no, outside of DepEd. But I'm happy to hear that you've expanded the program to one full school year. No? My next question is, how many students are we targeting for that? Actually, hindi na siya feeding, you know? It's a meal program na. No? And then, how many students are we targeting? And then, I also heard earlier that you're distributing milk. What else do you distribute in order to address the nutritional issues of our children?
We have the nutrition food products, Mr. Chair, yung mga fruits, Nutriban.
My first instinct is logistics. How do you distribute that? Are these
the mode
being-
of distribution, you mean,
are
Mr.
these being
Chair?
bought by LGUs and distributed by LGUs, or are these being bought from the central office and then distributed?
No, this is managed by the schools, Mr. Chair.
So schools, okay,
Schools.
and they are given funds.
Yes, the funds are downloaded directly to them,
Okay.
and they manage the feeding program in their schools.
So they're the principals are the ones in charge.
Yes,
of the
Mr.
meal.
Chair, as per guidelines, no teacher should be involved in the implementation of a school-based feeding program. We have admin cost component of the downloaded fund that would cover for the preparations and the possible hiring of a personnel that would take care of the preparations of the food.
And this is how many students are we targeting? For now, I would assume
Okay.
this is a
We
target.
are targeting 1,678,000 learners from kinder to grade 6, Mr. Chair.
1 million learners.
Yeah, 1.6 million, Mr. Chair.
1.6.
Mr. Chair, targeting the total student population to 36.
Okay. And this has started already for 2023 for this school. For this coming school year.
For this coming school year, Mr. Chair, our target learners are the wasted and severely wasted learners from kinder to grade 6.
Okay. And do we have a procedure wherein students will be weighed beforehand and then weighed after?
Yes, we do have the weight before at the start of the school year, Mr. Chair, and then after the feeding program, after the feeding days are over.
Okay. I'll show a slide lang, no? But this is not
It's the same. This one or this one, sir?
this one. This one first. Yeah. Um, slide 13, no? The national prevalence of stunting and wasting, no? And for stunting, we have 20% of our children aged 6 to 10. No? That's a 1 out of 5. Medyo malaki yan. Are considered stunted, and then 21% are considered underweight. No? The 20% represents about 2.8 million children, no? Not exactly learners, no? But these are children. And then the wasting is about a million. The underweight is about 2.7 million children are underweight. And then the wasted is about 7%. No? That's about a million children who are wasted. So if we will look at this data for the nation, it's really quite concerning that 1 out of 5 child in our country is considered stunted, underweight, or wasted, basically malnourished. No? And that's quite a significant number and a concerning number. And the reason why I bring this up is we all know, no, a hungry child will not learn. No? That's impossible. No? And a lot of these issues happen during the early childhood days. Some of them are quite difficult to repair when they enter our kindergarten and primary schools. But then again, we need to do this intervention to prevent further regression or further damage in their bodies and in their health. No? So that's why the Senate, actually as a body, is very passionate in allocating funds to improve the situation when it comes to nutrition of our children. And I note that there are about 1.6 million students that will go into the feeding program. It's a significant number. Nevertheless, if you just add all of these numbers, the stunted, underweight, and wasted, that's approximately about 7 million children who are considered stunted, underweight, and wasted. And majority of them will be in our schools. No? So, in other words, what I'm driving at is we're still far cry from the ideal situation of feeding everyone. No? My dream is to have a universal meal program. No? Everyone's being fed, regardless if you're malnourished or not. Everyone's being fed. No? Just like other countries are doing. But then again, that will demand a lot of money. No, but we're not stopping in looking for money or innovating. For example, the Nutriban program is a good program because it solves logistics and it's cheaper. However, we need to employ other out-of-the-box solutions. For example, volunteers in our school so that we can reduce costs. No? So, my request from DepEd is to submit to the committee a budgetary estimate on how much will it cost to come up with a universal meal program. That's number one. Number two, how much will it cost just to address children who are experiencing who are experiencing issues with nutrition, no? Meaning they're malnourished, because you have the data, and just give us an estimate on how much do we need so that during the budget time we can allocate some portions to increase the 1.6 million number of students to the ideal number that we need to address. Sana man lang yung those who are malnourished. No? I don't have the figures right now, but just give us a number based on the past weighing or the past analysis that you have done in the past school year.
Yes,
Yes,
Mr.
go ahead, Asik.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we will do that. In fact, the ones that you mentioned are actually in the captured by the radar of the BLSS already. That's why in the guidelines, meron tayong provision doon na in the event na magkaroon ng excess funds from the allocated funds for the wasted and severely wasted, ang priority dyan ang mga stunted, undernourished, including those undernourished in the alternative learning system, Mr.
Do you
Chair.
have the number based on school year, this last school year, 2023, 2022, 2023? By the start of the school year, how many learners are undernourished or malnourished? Do you
Wala
have
pa,
that
Mr.
number?
Chair. As of now, we are still collating the end the result, yung tawag end of school year, yung pag-weigh nila. So kinokolate pa lang nila, and then they will collate all the data from all over the country to come up with the numbers, Mr. Chair.
Submit to us yung before school year and after school year for the last school year, 2022, 2023. More or less, it will be the same for this school year. I would assume more or less, no, because the intervention is not as massive yet. Unlike itong gagawin nyo kasi massive na ito this coming school year. And I commend you for that. No? That's really a commendable move. But itong last school year, it will be a good guide for us because my logic for getting that number is I will use that number in allocating more funds. No? Hopefully, get diverting funds from other projects that are not as important. I really feel that addressing the nutritional problems of our children is a priority. It should be a priority. Equal lang yan with building classrooms. No? That's why I had to point this out. All right, so I have other more questions, but we have a lot of resource persons, and I see all of them nodding their heads. So I want to hear their thoughts on this. But we'll start first with BARM, no? And BARM is a very important region in our country. We all know that with the recent basic law that created the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, a lot of devolution happened, especially on education, and I commend the BARM government for making some innovations. No? For example, the Ministry of Education is a combination of the three different agencies, no? Four different agencies, which is very important. No? I think that is a way to synergize the system. So we want to hear updates on in terms of enrollments, some of the issues that you have encountered, and how national government can play a role in improving the education system in BARM.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. On the part of the Ministry of Basic, Higher and Technical Education of BARM, most of the department orders and guidelines from the DepEd Central are being reiterated by the MBHTE, of course with some modifications. And as to our enrollment, at this point, we have already more than 1 million Bangsamoro learners for the basic education. Considering that, as what the good senator had said, that the Ministry of Basic, Higher and Technical Education has 4 subsectors, which is the CHED, which is higher education now, the TESDA, which is the technical education, and of course the Madaris. So DepEd is on the basic education. So, as to the interventions that we had with our ministry, our ministry provided the Bangsamoro learners the Bangsamoro armchairs. We provided them with learning equipments. We provided them with textbooks and other school intervention facilities, school buildings, something like that. But the greatest challenge there is about the nationally funded programs, which is still, on hold, no? Considering that in the Bangsamoro Organic Law, there was a provision there that the nationally funded programs shall be continued by the national government. But unfortunately, until now, we didn't receive, for almost 4 years, no? We don't have any nationally funded programs except for the repairs of the classrooms, no? But some other some other programs we didn't have. We just rely on the block grant. But considering that the block grant is, being provided by our law, no? So it's not enough. So that's the biggest challenge at this point in time. As to the enrollment, I think the Bureau of Basic Education could articulate on that, especially on the crucial problems that we have encountered. So if we, with your permission, Mr. Chair, the Bureau Director for Basic Education would expound on the enrollment and other crucial problems encountered by the Ministry of Basic Higher and Technical Education.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we call on Mr. Director Balawag.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Mr. Balawag, Johnny Balawag, the Bureau Director for Basic Education in the MBHT BARM. Yes, Mr. Chair and the rest of the group, good morning once again. Insofar as the initiatives of the MBHT, referring to the back to school programs and how prepared is the MBHT of the BARM, just like the national, we also held our early enrollment, way back in May 10, but we expanded it until June 24, So as a result of that, in the early enrollment, I can give you some good figure, pertaining to the respond of the field, pertaining to the early enrollment. So we have for the kindergarten with a total of 113,502 who responded for that early enrollment we held. For the grade 1, we have 93,125, grade 7, 51,828, and grade 11, 39,610 with a total of 298,065. And the ongoing enrollment, of course, currently, we already have achieved the 88% of the previous enrollment. So they're still ongoing because previously we have 1,068,752 total in BARM region. And for today, we have a total enrollment as of August 21, numbering to 933,622. And for other initiatives and intervention and programs of the MBHT, we are glad to say that the programs of the national we adopted, just like the Brigada Escuela also in preparation for the upcoming opening of classes on August 29. We also would like to inform that the MBHT will be adhering with the August 29 opening of classes simultaneously with the national, and also the Oplan Balik Eskwela you also have, and the campaign for back to school and learners mapping is ongoing with our MBHT, as of course directed by our Honorable Minister Mohagir M. Ekbal. So there are other initiatives relative to ensuring that the slogan of the MBHT that no bangsamoro child shall be left behind being done and put in place of our Honorable Minister, just like on our structure, every sector, the Minister place bureaus so that we could ensure that no one shall be left behind in so far as children of the Bangsamoro is concerned. Just like having the Bureau for Indigenous Peoples Education, the Bureau of Special Education, and Bureau of Alternative Learning System, side by side with the Bureau of Basic Education. So these are one of the many initiatives that our minister is currently doing, to ensure that quality education in MBHT will be achieved, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I have a basic question, and I heard Director Salik mentioning about Black Grant, and I know that's the main source of fund, for the entire BARM region. But I want to know how much of the Black Grant goes to education. And before that, let me just go back. Before you answer that, let me just backtrack a bit so that everyone will be on the same page. All the basic education, higher education schools in the BARM region are now under the administration of the BARM government, meaning the teachers are being paid by the BARM government. Tama po ba? Yes. The principals are being paid. And then all the higher education institutions there, no, the public lang, obviously, the public are also being managed and paid now by the BARM government. Tama po ba? No?
Yes, sir. Actually, under the Ministry of Basic Higher and Technical Education, there are 7 higher education ministry supervised institution. So that are being paid by the ministry. Then under the basic education, we have around 11 divisions, which include Cotabato City and the spatial geographical area, the 16 barangays in North Cotabato. So we have around how much, if you will allow me, we may request.
Yeah, these are basic lang so that so that everyone will understand. And not everyone understands the dual structure of our country in terms of education, particularly in BARM. So I just want to make everyone understand that in BARM, no, the administration of the education system is being handled by the BARM government already.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, you wanna?
The Chief of Planning would answer the query regarding the amount, how much the.
And then the amount, no? How much goes to
Yes.
the education sector, and then how much goes to the basic education
Okay,
sector.
thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With the question, how much budget from the Black Grant going to MBHC? With last year, 2022, the total amount from the Black Grant was 29 billion, and from 29 billion, 11.8 billion for the basic education comprises of the 4 sectors: the Madaris, the Tech Ed, the higher education, and as well as the basic education, Mr. Chair.
And then the 11.8 billion, how much goes to the PS? How much goes to capital outlay? And how much goes to MOE? I just want to understand again how the BARM allocates the basic education budget to the different expense class of our government. No, how meron ba tayo?
Mr. Chair, while the Chief of Planning is scoring the data, but I just want to add that the most of the salaries of the personal services for basic education, I think the problem there is that in the Black Grant, we have a new school divisions, which is Cotabato City, and SGA, the Spatial Geographical Area. The Bangsamoro government requested the National Budget and Management that the salaries of those teachers who were being included in the Bangsamoro government should that the salaries of the personal services of the SJ teachers should also be anong tawag doon? Yung para bang yung kanilang mga salary should be madadala doon sa Bangsamoro government, considering that Cotabato City has their own personal services under the Department of Defense Central, then also the SGA. Then when they being acquired by the Bangsamoro government, ang gusto sana ng Bangsamoro government ay yung kanilang mga personal services should also be dadalhin, no? Yung mga kanilang mga, but according to them, the salaries should also be chargeable against the Black Grant. So lalo nagdagdagan. So hindi nakita ng Bangsamoro government yung nung pagkuha ng Cotabato City Division at saka SGA na mababawasan pa rin pala yung kanilang Black Grant. So hindi nakita yon. So at this point in time, ang pinaka problema kasi is marami pa rin kakulangan, no? There are so many, we need another teachers na kung pwede ay talagang may kakulangan tayo. So Ang problema namin is we still need items sana, new items, extension items, pero wala pa rin. So, ang ginagawa lang natin at this point in time is yung mga, what do you call that? The natural vacancies like pinipill up namin. We don't have any new items, no? At this point. So, Mr. Jordan, are you ready na? How much? Yeah. If you, with your permission, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Chair. From 11.8 billion, Mr. Chair, 1.678 billion allocated for the classroom, for the capital outlay, and 10.1 billion for the personal services po.
In other words, almost 95% goes to pasweldo.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Oo. So only about 1.6 billion goes to building of classrooms.
Yes, Mr.
Oo.
Chair.
Okay. Wow. That's that's a picture of the education system, no? But despite that, let me show. Actually, I have a slide here, no? I want to show, and I showed this when I went to Basilan. See Governor Hataman had the education summit, and so we did some research on data from BARM, and we wanted to look at the participation rates, meaning for that school age, no, how many students are going to school, no? So for kindergarten, about 53%, no? For elementary, meaning grade 1 to grade 6, about 69%. What's worrisome is for junior high school, which is 37%, and senior high school is about 13%. So, in other words, the older they get, the more dropouts. And when they reach senior high school, only 1 out of 10 are in school, no? So, this is worrisome because nasaan na yung siyam, no? And we all know that in that area, we're still trying to normalize, no, or to improve the peace and order and stability of that area. So this is quite worrisome because I don't think classrooms is a problem. Maybe a more important problem is how to bring our kids to school and how to retain them in school, no? That is the biggest problem. In fact, when I saw si Minister Iqbal, I mentioned this to him.
Yeah, we were together.
Yeah, we were together. And I think because the first order of business in BARM, if I may suggest, no, is bring them to school, no? Promote schooling in the area because sa kindergarten pa lang mababa na, no? If you look at the national average, 66 for the national, and then for elementary is 89, for junior high school is 81, for national is 49. Of course, I'm not happy with the 49, but it's still quite significant, no? So I think the first order of business in BARM is to promote schooling, no, to bring them to school. And then the second order of business is to retain them in school. Because nakikita ko, I think I anecdotally, when I was talking to the BARM governors, a lot of our children there, they drop out because they help out in the farms, they help out with their families because of, obviously, we all know the issues of poverty there. They're forced to work at an early age, no? But of course, in the long run, that's not very good because you need a diploma nowadays in order to go to college. You also need a diploma nowadays to look for meaningful jobs, no? So in the long run, it's not good because they did not complete basic education, no? So how are we addressing this, Director Sally?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Actually, we have our program on the AKA program, which is the we're school is barangay or grade for kinder to grade 3. So what are being done is we have our group of validators looking for a barangay that has no schools, no? So we already addressed that. We have around more than 200 barangays who has no schools, and we already had around 93 learning centers for that. Then we have our catchment schools that upon taking the taking the grade 4, we have our catchment schools that will cater that Bangsamoro learners. So that's one way of addressing that. Second is we have also our finding finding out a child. This reach out a child program. We piloted the finding out a child was not enrolled. So we are trying to help them how to 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 go to school, something like that. So these are some of the intervention. I think the director Balawag could also add some programs or initiatives for that. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Sir DJ. Yes, what our DG is talking is, presenting is one of a program that we give much emphasis is ensuring that every schoolless barangay will have at least for the meantime a learning center. So corollary with what the good chair was mentioning, it is true that we have challenges when it comes to motivating or possibly looking into how we can bring our children to school, because we identified as much as 210 schoolless barangay in the entire region. So out of the 210, we were able to address already 106. We put up learning centers already in the 106 of the 210. We call this one as alternative delivery mode, and to be specific, the Abot Kalaman ng Pamilyang Bangsamoro, the AKA program, and making use of the alternative delivery mode. So we are addressing currently the 104, the remaining 104 of the schoolless barangay, of our region, And what also our Director General is saying is about reaching every child, campaign. This is what I earlier said or presented. We have the so-called campaign for back to school and learners mapping, ensuring that, of course, no child shall be left behind, side by side with all the bureaus being created in the MBHT, in particular in basic education. But admittedly, this is, of course, a big challenge in MBHT. But we are trying our very best to resolve all these issues. And comes time, inshallah, we'll be overcoming this problem. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Director Balawag and Director Salik, I just want to be enlightened. What do you think is the problem? How come participation in basic education is very low? No, what do you think, in your expert opinion? Is it a poverty problem? Is it a cultural problem? Is it a peace and order problem? Areas, is it a infrastructure problem? Because you mentioned some barangays will not have schools. Kahit na meron tayong voucher program, kung wala school, there's no. I mean, it's useless. No, so what do you think, what is the main cause why participation rate is low? I want to understand, because, for example, if you're saying that some of our barangays don't have schools, then maybe we can do a kagaya ginawa ng DepEd, yung last mile, no? Last mile program. It's a good program. I commend that program. Maybe we can apply the same program in the BARM, no? So that we can build schools there. Is it, I know, is it a peace and order problem? We all know some of the areas will still have insurgency and terrorists, no? So ano bang tingin yung problema? How, I want to understand so we can help, no?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. All of the above were, I believe, and I strongly believe that all of those were factors that contributed to the low participation rate in the region. Poverty, I guess, is ranking number one, because apparently, in the region, we could also observe possibly, mostly children were being used by their family, for income generation, because child labor, even international organization were saying that child labor is apparent in the region, and the peace and order also contributory, and also what we said earlier, there are barangays that we do not have, school that. But we identified that already. And of course, possibly on motivating, and looking into the mindset of every family within the region on the importance of education is another factor, that possibly contribute, in why some children are not going to school. There are also identified factors, not mentioned by our chair earlier, just like the culture, within the community or in the region. The early marriage also is contributory to this. And some self-process in the community are being, of course, addressed, but it cannot be done in a click. Second, that is why we truly, in possibly looking into this one for possible collaboration in addressing all these kind of problems.
The best case scenario, Director Salik and Director Balawag, is we're now in the process of what we call normalization slash bringing stability to the area. Maganda sana masabayan with a good education intervention. No? So while we are normalizing, while we are decommissioning, we're also improving our education system. No? And we're also improving participation of our constituents to our education system. I think those two should go hand in hand because I realize if you just normalize and our kids are still uneducated, then the end goal is the same. I mean, the end result is the same. They're impoverished, they're uneducated, they cannot get jobs. Long term, they cannot land decent jobs. And so the cycle will just go around and round. No? So it's good to have that good intervention, education intervention, so that sabay siya, no, with the normalization and decommissioning. No? So that's my thought. And I know it's a tall orders considering that you only have 1.1 billion, no, 1.6 for infrastructure. No, so that's not so much. No, I know that you need to build more. So we want to help. Ako personally, I want to help. I see the potential of that area. What is the relationship between DepEd and the BARM government insofar as basic education is concerned? No, I know the curriculum is guided by the national, but other than the curriculum, is there any relationship between DepEd national and the BARM government?
If I may, Mr. Chair. Insofar as the Bangsamoro Organic Law is concerned, the educational system of the Bangsamoro is still a subsystem of the national government. But somehow there is a kulatili there that the educational framework shall be relevant, responsive to the needs, ideals of the aspiration of the Bangsamoro. Insofar as the relation of the national and the MBHT BARM is concerned, it is, I believe there is an ongoing negotiation with the constituted technical working group of the MBHT by our honorable minister with the national high-ranking officials to possibly look into how they can collaborate and help each other in all these things we've been encountering in the BARM region, especially that the MBHT is programs and projects be still considered by the national as part of its help for the Bangsamoro region, Mr. Chair. And I was informed that next week there was a scheduled meeting again by the technical working group of the MBHT high-ranking official with the high-ranking official of the national DepEd. Thank you.
Asek, go ahead. You can join in.
Yes, Mr. Chair. In terms of funding, In the JAA, we have a special provision in the JA 2023. There's a special provision there, number 5, particularly that stipulates that the school building program allotted or allocated for BARM shall be released to the DPWH. However, there is another provision in the same special provision na yung school building fund should be directly released to MBHTE. So because of the conflicting provisions, the fund for the school building remain unreleased. And then another one is the GASPE. The GASPE program covering schools, private schools in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, magagaling pa rin yan sa DepEd Fund, Mr. Chair. It's part of the total GASPE fund of the department.
I suggest that in that intergovernmental, you call it intergovernmental, no? That's the one with DepEd or the technical working group?
So, we are still trying to have that relation body, interrelation body. We'll be having our meeting by next week, according to the DepEd Central. This is a high-level talk between the MPHT and the DepEd Central. So some sort of intergovernmental relations body.
Yeah. Well, I would strongly suggest to come up with that basic education intergovernmental body. No? Of course, DepEd has their own challenges, but they're experts in basic education. They know, they have a lot of good people in DepEd that can give advice to the BARM, especially in the case of classroom or school participation rates. No? And it's good to have a dialogue. No? And my concern is just to address the education of our kids in BARM, no? Because I think that is the most effective way of lifting them out of poverty and all the other issues there, no? And that strong relationship with DepEd National, I think, can bring a lot of wisdom to solve some of the basic challenges that BARM is encountering. So I suggest we can put that together.
Yeah, inshallah, sir. Thank you very much. We are going to that, inshallah.
Thank you for that. And just to move on, I'll request from the BARM, no, to submit to us some solutions that you think we can help in terms of improving participation rates. So let's focus on the basic first, on participation rate. If it's the school-less barangays, then we can let us know how much do you need, where is that. If you have other programs in mind, submit to the committee so we can help. It's the budget season now. I'll try my best to allocate some funds so that the BARM Ministry of Education will have additional support in terms of improving participation rate.
Thank you very much for that, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll go on to the other resource persons who are here with us. We'll start with Dr. Milan, sir, of PESPA, the Association of Principals. And
Yes,
we'll talk about the preparation, sir. Kayo yung mga our principals, frontliners yan, so you know what's happening on the ground. Let us know what's the situation in terms of school preparation.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. In behalf of the Philippine Elementary School Principals Association, we interposes no objection on the two resolutions proposed by you. However, the following factors and determinants will be considered. First, we would like to give you the overview of the crafted position paper of PESPA. You know, the education system in fundamental pillar to any nation's development, annexed to the Senate bill of the Honorable Win Gatchalian to increase the number of school days from 200 days to 220. The PESPA position paper is to examine the background, pros and cons, sustainable solutions regarding the impact of the increasing number of school days during the opening of classes. These are the advantages that we want to deal with. If we want to enhance the academic achievement, the additional instructional days would enable educators to cover more content, resulting in deeper understanding and improve academic performance among students. we have to improve also knowledge and retention. A longer school year allows to more focus and reinforce learning, leading to better retention of knowledge among students. We have also considered bridging the learning gaps. With extra instructional days, educators would have more time to identify and address the instructional days to level up the equity among students. The holistic development in terms of potential. However, we have to discuss, of course, the disadvantages among teachers. If we are going to lengthen the number of school days during the opening of classes, we talk about teacher workloads. Extending the school year could burden teachers with additional work, affecting their mental well-being and potentially compromising the quality of instruction. Second, the cost of implication. Extending the school year may require additional funding for utilities, transportation, and teacher salaries, which could strain already limited education budgets. Students' fatigue. A longer school year might result in student burnout and decreased motivation, potentially leading to diminished learning outcomes. That's why we proposed and suggested among the board of directors and executive of PESPA that this must be considered during the opening of classes. With teachers and staff, sufficient number of qualified and trained educators, administrative staff, and support personnel to manage the school operations. Curriculum and materials. Development and ability of up-to-date curriculum textbooks, learning materials and resources that align with the educational standards. Student enrollment and attendance, properly enrollment procedures, accurate record keeping, and strategies to ensure good students' attendance and retention. School policies and management will define policies, rules, and regulations, as well as effective school management and governance must also be considered. Financial resources, adequate funding to support educational programs, staff salaries, and maintenance of improved facilities, schools. We have also considered the technological integration, utilization of appropriate technology for online learning, communication, and administrative tasks, because that's a burden on the part of teachers. Parent and community engagement, establishing a strong relationship between the school, parents, and the local community to support students' development. Health and safety. Of course, we talk about the previous COVID-19. That's why there must be health protocols to avoid COVID-19 pandemic in the previous. Implementation of hygiene, safety, and security protocols to ensure that the well-being of the students and the staff, and the quality assurance, of course. Monitoring and evaluation mechanism to assess the effectiveness of the teaching methods, student outcomes, and overall school performance. All public schools will be given additional maintenance or MO, maintenance and other operating expenses for the payment of electricity bill, especially during summer, yung April and May, because the electricity consumption due to the increase of heat index as well as humidity, especially in Mindanao area, as per our board discussed. Now, our sustainable solutions based on the two proposed resolutions. Yung professional development for teachers, a comprehensive and ongoing training programs can help educators adapt to an extended school calendar while managing their workload effectively. Government funding. Adequate allocation and resources by the government can help cover the additional costs associated with increasing the number of school days. And then we have talked about balanced curriculum. A restructured curriculum and includes more experiential and interactive learning can alleviate students' fatigue and enhance their interest and engagement throughout the extended school. And conclusion, the proposal is to increase the number of school days, system from 200 days to 220 days carries various advantages and challenges. While extending a school year offers greater academic opportunities and holistic development concern related to teachers' workloads, costs, and student fatigue must also be considered. Implementing sustainable solutions such as professional development for teachers, government funding, and a balanced curriculum can help address these challenges effectively while ensuring the positive impact of the extended school year. These are all the proposed position paper of the Philippine Elementary School Principals Association with regards to the two Senate bill presented by you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Milan. On a separate note, Dr. Milan, I would like to ask from you, being an expert and being a principal yourself, and being the president of all the principals, how's the school preparation, school opening preparation? What problems are you encountering, or what challenges are you seeing, and what government should do in order to have a smooth school opening from the perspective of our principals?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. As principal in the field, we are also adhering on the policies of DepEd, of course, based on the preparation of the school year. However, we have to set internal standards to make sure that our students, whom considered as the most precious gem inside the class, school premise, that the security and safety of them on the preparation of the opening of classes. First, just like what I have said, we adhere on the policies. That's why we implemented the Brigada Escuela. That's the first thing to do to ensure that the classroom atmosphere and the school premise is very much safety for the students. We implemented all the guidelines stipulated in that order, and then see to it that we tap all the possible stakeholders to support, say, policemen, barangay officials, the local government units, to support the safety and security of the school program.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Milan. We'll call on Dr. Rosarial of the National Association of Public Secondary Schools in the Philippines. Any comments po on the school opening?
Good morning. I am Dr. Warlito Rosarial, National President, National Association of Public Secondary School of the Philippines. Sir, we prepared two position papers individually based on your Senate resolution.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Resolution number 672, NAPSPIL position paper. The National Association of Public Secondary Schools of the Philippines Incorporated is committed to ensuring the best possible education for our nation's youth. As advocates for quality education, we continually strive to align school policies with the well-being of students, teachers, and educational community as a whole. In this position paper, NAPSPIL addresses critical factors that must be considered when determining the optimal timing for the school opening, focusing on insights gained from the recent survey involving parents, learners, and teachers. May I present to you the background? The Department of Education is currently considering strengthening the calendar year from 200 to 220. The current school year in the Philippines starts in August and ends in July. It means that the students are exposed to the summer heat for 7 months of the year. In the recent years, there have been several incidents of students being hospitalized due to heat stroke during school activities. In 2020, the Congress enacted Republic Act 11480, which allows the school calendar to start as early as June 1 but not later than August 31. This was done to give DepEd more flexibility in setting the school calendar, especially in the event of natural disaster. Recovering from pandemic, the Philippines has grappled with the question of when to commence the school year. particularly in terms of balancing climatic conditions, academic disruption due to holidays, and economic realities for learners. In response to these concerns, NAPSPIL conducted a comprehensive survey to gauge the sentiments of the stakeholders, the students, parents, including school personnel regarding the movement of the school opening to June. This position paper summarizes our findings and recommendations rooted in the context of existing laws and Department of Education issuances. Benefits of lengthening the school calendar and moving the school opening to June. Climatic conditions. The traditional school opening in June capitalizes on the summer session, which offers favorable weather conditions for learning. High temperatures during summer months allow for improved ventilation and reduce the risk of respiratory illnesses. This aligns with the Department of Health's recommendation for maintaining safe and healthy learning environment. Certainly, the traditional school opening in June capitalizes the summer session, offers numerous benefits in terms of favorable climate conditions that contribute to the students' overall health and well-being. We also argue that the lengthening of school calendar would help to reduce summer learning loss. Summer learning loss is the decline in academic achievements that students often experience over the summer months. This is because students are not in the school, are not being exposed to new learning opportunities. By lengthening the school calendar, students would have less time lost during summer. With this, we suggest the school calendar be moved from early June to early April. The Department of Health's recommendation for maintaining safe and healthy learning environments emphasize the importance of proper ventilation and the reduction of respiratory health risks among students. The correlation between climatic conditions and respiratory illnesses is well established, and the summer session's high temperature can significantly contribute to minimizing this risk. According to the Department of Health's guidelines, well-ventilated spaces are crucial in preventing the spread of airborne pathogens and maintaining air-door quality. Proper ventilation helps to dilute and remove contaminants from the air, reducing the risk of respiratory infection among learners. The summer months, characterized by warm temperatures, enable schools to keep windows and doors open, facilitating better airflow and reducing the concentration of indoor pollutants. Statistics from Department of Health show that a notable decrease in respiratory illnesses cases among students during summer months compared to colder seasons. This can be attributed to the improved ventilation opportunities the summer weather provides. The guidelines also emphasize the importance of avoiding crowded and poorly ventilated areas, which can become breeding grounds for respiratory infections. By opening schools in June and taking advantage of the pleasant climate, educational institutions can create a safer and healthier environment that aligns with these recommendations. Therefore, the school opening back to June with its favorable weather conditions support Department of Health's guidelines for maintaining safe and healthy learning environment. The high temperature during summer months allow for improved ventilation, which in turn reduces the risk of respiratory illnesses among students. By capitalizing on the summer season, educational institutions can ensure that students can have access to optimal learning conditions that prioritize their health and well-being.
Mr. Rosarial, I was furnished with your position paper. I know it's a
Yes,
little
sir.
bit long, no? Can you just summarize to us the position papers that you wrote?
Yes,
Just
I have
let's
here
go
the
straight to
summary,
the
sir.
point so we can
Sure, sir.
absorb it.
May I read the summary, sir? NAPSPL recommends that the Senate carefully consider the benefits outlined in this position paper when evaluating the optimal timing for the school opening. The emphasis on self-learning conditions, continuity of education, and socio-economic consideration highlights the holistic approach required to shape the educational policies that addresses the diverse of learners. We suggest that the Senate collaborate with the Department of Health and relevant stakeholders to further conduct research, including analysis of international best practices and their applicability to the Philippine context. NAPSPIL, as an advocate for public secondary education, and we would like to request our Senate to consider the benefits of moving the school opening to June. By doing so, we can ensure obtaining learning conditions, promote educational consistency, and empower students to balance education with economic realities. The alignment of school policies with this consideration will undoubtedly contribute to the holistic development of our nation's youth and advancement of our educational system. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We'll discuss the school opening in the second part. We're still going to talk more about the school opening, the preparation for the school opening. But I'll ask you about the proposed proposed change in the school opening later on. I think that was the focus of your speech earlier. So we'll call on Teachers Dignity Coalition. Ma'am Olivia de Guzman, any comments po on the school opening?
Good morning, Honorable Chair. With regards to the school opening, syempre po ang mga teacher lagi namang ready. Of course, we follow the department order, as to how the classroom, each classroom will be prepared, no? Sabi, may naririnig ako na nagsa-side comment, operation backlash, and we do that actually. No, hindi din natapos ang one week para maayos namin yung aming mga classroom. Actually, until now po, Honorable Chair, ay nag-aayos pa rin kaming mga teachers sa aming mga classroom. Of course, with the help of our stakeholders, no, marami namang tumutulong. Yun lang talaga ang hindi maiiwasan, of course, ay yung mga teacher na to use their own money para maging maayos muli at maging handa ang kanilang mga classroom para sa pasukan. And it's on the 29th of this month na po. So ilang araw na lang. Actually, marami pa rin mga teachers ngayon na nasa paaralan to compel, no, para maayos at maging handa para sa mga bata ang kanilang mga classrooms.
Do you think our schools are ready to open this August 29 based on your conversation with our teachers?
Lagi naman pong ganon, Honorable Chair, no po, ang mga teacher, kahit na minsan may mga side comments, pero sumusunod, no? Gagawin pa rin nila, gagawin pa rin namin kung ano yung mga pinapagawa sa amin. Of course, at stake po dito ang ating mga learners, kaya gagawin pa rin namin at susundin pa rin namin. Thank you po.
What are the challenges that they are facing? I know that the challenges remain the same, no, for many years, no? Overworked teachers,
Yes, sir.
teachers using their own money for materials.
Yes, sir.
But despite all of those usual challenges, the show must go on, no?
Yes, sir.
Meaning teaching must go on, no? And that's why I salute our teachers, because they manage to survive, no, despite the heavy challenges and pressure, no.
Definitely, sir.
But talking to our teachers, what do you think government should address, no, prioritize excuse me, prioritize in terms of addressing teacher issues?
Of course, ang priority lagi ng DepEd ay ang learners. Of course, sa mga teacher din. Pero ang hinihingi sana namin, habang iniisip natin ang kapakanan ng ating mga mag-aaral, isama natin ang kapakanan ng mga guro. Sapagkat sila yung channel eh. Ang mga teachers ang channel kung ano man ang magiging resulta ng mga bata ng learning ng mga bata in the future. Nakasalalay po ito sa mga guro. Kung ang mga guro ay kontento sila at masaya silang nagtatrabaho, hindi sila overworked at nabibigay yung kanilang mga pangangailangan, I'm sure na mas lalong magiging effective po ang learning sa ating bansa.
Yung priority na pangangailangan nila based on your in the context of school opening, anong priority ho nila?
Basic needs siguro, lalo na nga mga school opening, basic needs, yung mga pangangailangan, the Brigada Eskwela itself, no? Alam natin na ang stakeholders tumutulong naman talaga, pero hindi maiiwasan talaga na hindi rin maibigay ng ating pamahalaan yung mga pangangailangan like mga repainting, basic, dati pang issue no, ng mga pangangailangan ng mga guro sa kanilang mga paaralan. Hindi po talaga naiiwasan na gumagastos sila ng sarili nilang pera to think na ang kanilang sweldo ay napakaliit lamang.
Thank you, Ma'am De Guzman. We'll call on Dr. Romel Bautista from the Philippine Association of School Superintendents.
Yeah, good morning, sir. As regards the opening of classes, we have already with the Brigada Eskwela, that was the prior week, and then we are on the Oplan Balik Eskwela now, conducting schools where operationalizing the Oplan Balik Eskwela so that queries from the different stakeholders could be given immediate solutions should the capacity of the school and the schools division office can do. However, as regards the educational resources inputs that we need, halimbawa ay yung mga we have seen the data at the presentation earlier. We lack teachers, we lack classrooms, and surely the schools division offices through the school principals have a quick fix in order that we can say that we are really ready to open the class come August 29. Kaya ang nangyari, offshoot ay big class sizes. So from the planning standard of 45, medyo magpapalampas tayo ng up to 50 or 60 so that we will be able to accommodate the learners who would like to enroll in the public schools. And so, dalawang quick solutions to the perennial problems na lack of teachers and lack of school. Pag tayo nagdagdag ng number sa ating klase, nasusolusyonan natin yung kakulangan sa teacher ng paisa-isa, ganun din yung kakulangan sa classroom. So, yun yung mga initial stages. But, of course, we are looking forward na masolusyonan talaga yung mga pangangailangan sa ating bilang ng teacher para maging ideal, as well as the class ratio, so that we'll be able to really deliver the quality education that our pag-asa ng bayan needs. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Dr. Bautista, I can see from your tag, you're from Quezon Province.
Yep, sir.
Kayo po ang SDS doon.
Yep, sir.
So, ang highly urbanized doon will be Lucena.
Lucena.
How's the student-to-classroom ratio in Lucena? Pero Lucena kasi malaki.
Medyo malaki po ang Lucena. Actually, ang pinakamalaking school ng Quezon ay nasa Lucena. However, it is under the Schools Division of Quezon Province, yung Quezon National High School. Mayroon silang pangangailangan na, halimbawa sa senior high school ay 26 ang pangangailangan nila. Parang nabigyan sila ngayon ng 17, at least ay medyo mai-isap yung yung gap. Yet overall sa figure ng Quezon, ang Quezon kasi hindi masyadong malaki ang pangangailangan sa number of teachers except for senior high school, 398, the totality of Quezon. Sa iba, na-distribute kasi yung number of learners into the 960 schools ng Quezon. Merong maliit ang ratio, may medyo lumaki. Kaya pag nabalanse, looking at the division level, halos walang needs except for the senior high school. Dahil dun sa context ng bawat paaralan where lang schools, ang ratio ay 1:23, 1:33, while pag dumating sa poblasyon, 1:43, 1:45, 1:47, 48, ganun.
That's for teachers, no? But for classrooms.
For classroom ratio, ang need namin ay, may data ko,
But is it congested only in
the poblasyon.
in poblacion?
Yeah.
Also in Lucena or all?
Yes, yes.
What's the typical student to classroom ratio?
1:48 to 50. Hindi ganun kalaki yung
Yeah, not so bad rin.
Yeah.
Not so bad. No? Compared to
Compared to the other,
CR is 60.
compared to Antipolo where per day comes,
Oo.
mas malaki ang pangangailangan ng Antipolo.
Yeah, yeah. Tama. Okay. Alright, so
Kasi-
uneven talaga, no? Uneven.
Yeah.
So it's really the problematic area is the urban area.
Yep.
So you need to qualify that because government naman has been building, but of course the urban areas is growing faster than the rural areas.
And then aside from the fact that the connotation, from parents' connotation that sending their children to the population or to the city schools is better than the ones in their neighborhood in the rural area.
Yeah, tama. Because based on our experience, Valenzuela kasi we have a lot of industries eh. So migration is big. No? So hindi kami we're not producing people but migrating people malaki sa amin. That's why we're experiencing 60 students in one classroom in our senior high school, no?
Yeah.
Especially in the highly congested barangay.
Yeah. It's more than that pa po. Dun
In
sa
some
mga-
areas.
Yeah,
no?
yeah. In some areas.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We'll call on Mr. Wilfredo Rodriguez of the National PTA Philippines. Sir?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Okay. Thank you po for andito po yung ating PESPA, NAFC, and everything. So, kayo po yung sana namin kailangan for effective partnership ng ating mga PTA nationwide po, no? Kompleto na po yung ating PTA sa buong Pilipinas. So, ngayon po, can I give the floor to our community partnership at Miss Sibal?
Okay, so first and foremost, thank you po sa pag-imbita sa amin. As Sir Willie mentioned, we are now also redirecting our efforts not just to support the Department of Education and also in the delivery of education, but also to communicate to parents' concerns mula po sa policy at sa implementation. With regard to the resolution of the Honorable Senator Gatchalian, we would like to echo the parents have always been in support of learning continuity at ayaw natin na titigil ang pag-aaral at learning ng mga kabataan. Sa patuloy na pagsuporta po ng ating mga magulang at other stakeholders sa paghahanda or preparations, parents have been fully active in the efforts for Brigada Eskwela, and not just in the start but throughout the year. And katulad nga po nito, kababanggit lamang na in BARM, there is a donation of 1,000 square meters in Cebu, care of the PTA. So the efforts have been expansive also in the support of the parents. As we support po in the preparations for school reopening, we just like to be mindful of the things na concerns ng ating mga magulang sa paghahandang ito. Isa po dito ay ina-acknowledge natin ang climate change and the flexibility of the school year as its opening. However, as we adapt to any calendar, maybe it be in June or August, sana po ay may provision sa mga weather conditions na matatamaan ito. Halimbawa, ang school year ay tatama sa summer towards the end, dapat po may conditions na ng additional budget for the OPEX dahil natural, mas marami pong ventilador ang maaring open at consideration also sa ventilation. At of course, summer po ito, dapat patuloy ang water supply na maiinom at magagamit for not just for drinking but for sanitation of our learners. Mindful din po tayo na kahit sa ang bansa in the area in the Philippines, we are affected by disasters, both man-made and natural. Like naman kanina sa BARM, there's armed conflict. And in other areas of the Philippines, recent lang po ang Taal, Mayon, at even the earthquakes. So sana meron tayong review of the existing policies and implementation towards preparations for missed learning days, whether it is in the short term or in the long term po. We acknowledge that, yes, a lot of our PTAs are also active in addressing these particular disasters. Now, as we prepare po for the coming school year, we also want to realize that, yes, we have already acknowledged the need for additional classrooms, facilities, and it is not going to be solved in one school year. However, sana po magtulungan tayo towards providing these facilities and equipment to our learners. Hindi lamang po yung supplies. Kasi minsan po nag-start yung taon, hindi pa din ready yung learning materials, modules, at books ng ating kabataan. So sana po ma-ensure na these things are already ready. And yung curriculum nga po, sana gamitin din natin ang pagkakataong ito sa pagbubukas upang tingnan ang ating curriculum upang ito ay mag-master sa ating competency and skills and the soft skills of our learners. At tulungan natin ang mga guro. Nabanggit kanina, ang 6 hours teaching load. Ako po ay dating guro, naging principal din po bukod sa pagiging magulang. Alam ko po na ang 6 na oras na pagtuturo ng tuloy-tuloy ay hindi pareho sa administratibong trabaho na inupuan mo ng clerical ng 6 hours. So, kasama dito sa shortage po na to, sana din po matugunan ang atensyon ng ating mga magulang kasi sa ibang lugar sa Pilipinas, maaring 6 hours ito, pero iba't ibang teaching load po ito, iba't ibang grado, like different grade levels, and different subject areas has a different preparation compared to a teacher who's teaching the same subject in the same subject area. And the PTA acknowledges this as we want to also support the well-being of our teachers. Kasama rin dito, perhaps one of the things na nakita at napag-usapan din namin ay yung shortages ng teachers sa senior high school na maaring ito ay dulot ng mga senior high school teachers ay dahil sa specialization na kinakailangan na competency na hindi basta maaring punan, hindi katulad ng sa junior high school or sa senior high school. So ito po ay isang thing na nais naming tingnan. Kahapon po ito ay napag-usapan sa Kongreso. So sana po matingnan din ang competency, especially po ng ating mga learners under the TechVoc draft. Naintindihan po namin, Honorable Ma'am Franchet, ASEC Franchet, ang need for shifting ng ating teachers dahil ito po ay kind of a parang short-term solution po sa lack of classrooms. However, sana po matingnan din ang other options natin as the parents also do not want to shortchange the children. We understand that students need time, hindi lang sa classroom para lang po learning inside and outside the classroom, pero to socialize. So sana po, pag nag-shifting, minsan, tinataboy na natin yung mga bata pa uwi. So sana may provision din po at learning spaces that they can freely socialize and learn on their own outside the classroom hours. As we prepare for school opening, sana din po wag nating kalimutan yung health and safety of our learners. One of our colleagues here mentioned the need for ventilation, but let us also emphasize the parents who also acknowledge the need for sanitation and disinfection of the classroom. COVID-19 has already taught us of the need for health and safety. So sana po as whether the school year happens, whenever it happens, we have sufficient toilets for our learners, we have facilities for hand washing, disinfection, and very important, the availability of safe drinking water. Alam namin at natunugan din po namin, and we support that perhaps there are other options that DepEd is studying, including the provision for blended learning. However, we hope that this does not put some of our children at a disadvantage. We know that in the lesson of the pandemic, alam natin na ang shifting to any form of learning ay may karagdagang gastos sa tahanan katulad ng pag-internet o yung gamit sa devices o printing. We still want to uphold what the Constitution says on free, accessible, and quality education for all. And as with that, na-mention yung ating gospel law to support expansion of the K-6 at hindi lang sa junior high at senior high. Pero sana po, as we go through this, we have learned from the lesson of senior high school na sana po hindi pag-abunuhin yung ating mga magulang na nag-avail ng ating voucher. At matingnan po yung mga gastos na kahit libre po yung aming tuition fee, may mga additional gastos po sila sa loob ng paaralan. Halimbawa, sa techbook, sa cooking. Ayan po. Sana po ito din ay matingnan kung paano ating masuportahan ang ating mga bata. Nabanggit po kanina yung feeding program as part of the preparations for school. Bukod po sa HATCO and NPTA, ako din po ay under Aral Pilipinas Coalition. At isa sa mga nakakausap namin ay ang mga 4Ps parents. Ayon sa mga 4Ps parents, isang challenge ng feeding program yung pagpapakain sa eskwelahan. Kasi minsan hindi din po monitor na pag pinapakain ng eskwelahan ang kanilang anak, hindi na nila ito pinapakain. So nakakalimutan po na ito ay supplemental at hindi ito, yun, nagnanad po si Sir, no? Ito po ay alam natin na minsan may magulang po na hindi, dahil pinapakain sa eskwelahan yung bata, hindi na nila pinapakain sa bahay. Not thinking that this is a supplemental feeding program and not to substitute for something that should be provided at home. That's why ito din po ay actively na gusto ding tugunan ng ating PTA. Nabanggit nga po na yung challenge din, yung pagpapatuloy ng programa during the particular summer periods. And it is very important na as much as we can, the parents also want to look at this perspective and how can we further support the school in continuing this particular program. Recently po, nagte-trending din sa ngayon ang mga koleksyon sa pagbubukas ng paaralan. Nais po naming manawagan sa Department of Education at sa education policy makers na alam po ng ating mga magulang at maaring yung iba hindi po, na hindi po dapat required ang koleksyon sa paaralan dahil patuloy po dapat maging free and accessible ang education. Marami po tayong magulang na voluntaryong nagbibigay ng suporta, pero yung mga koleksyon po na naririnig din namin ay sana po ay matugunan na hindi po ito dapat nagaganap. Naiintindihan po namin that all schools may be different according to traditions at ito ay ini-echo ng iba't iba nating magulang mula sa ibang rehiyon. At we understand the need for looking for contextualized solutions and support to our learners. However, as we suggest or want to look into these matters, we just want to emphasize that the parents recognize the importance of learning. Pero as we look for both the short-term and long-term solutions, sana po hindi natin i-compromise ang learning competencies and learning delivery. We hope that these solutions can still look for long-term solutions that can still help our learners. At tulungan po dapat, at nakikipagtulungan naman po ang ating mga magulang sa ating mga paaralan. At ikalawa po ay sana hindi natin hindi lamang po curriculum ang ating tinitingnan sa paaralan, kundi ang health and safety of our children. Dahil kailangan po nila ito as a foundation upang lubos silang may doon. Nabanggit po yung stunting kasi alam po na ang stunting at malnutrition ay nakaka-epekto sa retention ng ating mga kabataan. At pagka ang bata ay may sakit, ay hindi rin ito tunay na makakaalam. So, matututo. So, sana po ay matugunan din ang mga ibang aspeto ng pagbubukas ng paaralan bukod sa curriculum at learning materials, kundi kasama din ang mga bagay na tumutugon sa kanilang health and safety. Pagtapos po, yun, sana po ay patuloy na makapagtulungan tayo upang maghanap ng mga mekanismo para sa short-term at long-term solutions para sa ating mga anak, sa ating pamilya, sa ating mga guro at mga school health personnel at sa ating mga administration at sa lahat po. Dahil lahat po ito ay para sa ating bata. Pero hindi din naman po natin matutugunan yung pangailangan ng bata kung hindi din natin masuportahan ang ating mga magulang at ating mga guro at ating mga paaralan. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you for that. We still have that outstanding circular, no, ASEC on no collection policy.
Yes,
Meron
yes,
yan,
we do have, Senator, matagal ng standing policy
Yeah,
natin
correct.
yan, and we reiterate that every year. So,
Okay.
we do.
Just to make it clear that whatever the PTA collects is their own activity yan, correct? I mean, the
Ye-
principals, superintendents, DepEd in general cannot collect. There's no collection policy. But whatever, I know PTAs, sometimes they have their own fundraising activities. Sila na yan, di ba? There's no connection to the school. No? Just to make it clear that that's a long-standing policy of DepEd. No? Yeah, go ahead, sir. Baka, ano.
As private as private organization, that is they're doing as PTA of the school.
Oo.
They are in order to augment and help in bridging the gaps. Ayun, nagkakaroon sila ng mga fundraising activities on their own.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. We call on COCOPEA, or the Association of Private Schools. Attorney Manawag.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair. As to the, of course, COCOPE has always been a partner of this committee in its education advocacies and efforts, and we continue to be so. As for the preparations for the school year, of course, for the private schools, our preparations start as early as the current school year. So for the next school year, we are already preparing for it. This school year, we submit our permit applications because we have deadlines to meet with the DepEd. We undergo visitation and ocular inspections, and of course, the entire process of permit issuance. In fact, even if there is no assurance that permits will be issued on time or issued at all, schools continue to prepare physically, their physical setup, classrooms, facilities, curriculum, faculty, capacity building, training. Those are included in our preparations for the incoming school year. Of course, there are certain challenges along the way. Some schools, even if some schools have been operating already for several years, certain issues will come up, and that may delay or not issue or cause the non-issuance of the permit. But of course, so that becomes a continuity concern for us. We still continue to work with DepEd on this to address, but of course, no, it has become a yearly concern or challenge for the private schools, especially for our small and mid-sized schools, Mr. Chair. We understand that DepEd also has some challenges, especially during the pandemic, that certain applications may have been affected because of logistical or procedure concerns with their offices. But we adjust. At this point, we have already adjusted naman po, Mr. Chair. As to the school year opening, of course, we are ready to comply with any transition if necessary. And we understand that DepEd is still studying the necessity of the move of the school year. But we also need to be mindful that there are certain factors to be considered, as mentioned by our resource speakers already. And COCOPEA naman po, we are prepared to assist with DepEd on this effort in studying the possible, or if there's a necessity to change the school year. On that note, Mr. Chair, whether we will retain the current calendar or revert back to the old, schools should have or retain their capacity or discretion to determine if there is a need to suspend or shift to alternative delivery modes. Why? Because they are in the best position to determine the needs of their school community and their students and teachers. Because while there are typhoons, calamities in certain regions, not other provinces or other regions may not be experiencing the same circumstances of a particular area or locality. So we need to have, or schools should have, that elbow room or discretion. And lastly, Mr. Chair, I'd like to take this opportunity that to confirm as well what ASEC Bring has mentioned, that there has been efforts to collaborate or consult with the private education stakeholders. In fact, through the office of ASEC Bring us a few weeks earlier, We have conducted an initial meeting with them, and I think this will be I hope this will be a regular meeting na po. And also, Mr. Chair, as to the it was mentioned earlier, how can public schools be decongested? Because we understand the current situation now is that our public school system is congested, especially during and after the pandemic. Actually, pre-pandemic, we have already seen slow decline of student enrollment already. And with the pandemic, the decline was sharp. Private schools closed or suspended their operations. The displaced students, of course, migrated or transferred to the public schools, and we understand that this overwhelmed the public school system. So now that we are recuperating the education system, I'd like to recognize and I thank the honorable chair for mentioning earlier that there is a possibility of utilizing the private schools in order to decongest the private school system. We have the facilities. We can absorb the excess students that the private school system is struggling to absorb. We perhaps one way of doing that as well is to provide more subsidies for our students and teachers. Perhaps the existing subsidies, we can increase them so that students will be encouraged to utilize our private school system. And as we have, as you've seen naman, Mr. Chair, during the pandemic, we heavily invested on facilities, on structures, and it would be, to be quite straightforward, Mr. Chair, it would be a waste for us not to utilize the the help that the private education system can do to our education system as a whole.
Thank you, Attorney Manawag. Yes, I want to continue that point that you made, no, on capacity, and I'll show slide 4. We looked at the pre-pandemic enrollment versus the school year 2022 enrollment. For public schools, the good news is it has recovered. No, it grew by 6%. Pre-pandemic level, we're at 22 million students. Now we're at 24 million students. So that's the good news. The bad news is private school enrollment went down as much as 16%. No, and obviously a lot of our private school students transferred to public schools. No, so that's where the capacity suggestion comes to play. Because the private schools during the pre-pandemic level built enough capacity for an X amount of students, but now they're not hitting that enrollment anymore. No, so what I suggest to DepEd is to come up with a mechanism, maybe through the voucher system. I think the voucher system is one of the simplest, easiest to implement, most straightforward, but most effective in terms of addressing capacity issues. So I want to, again, call on DepEd to look at this angle and come up with a simulation. We're doing it internally, but DepEd can probably do it much better because of data. No? And just submit to the committee your findings on how do we use the voucher system as a means to decongest. No? But if this voucher system is designed well, we can actually not only decongest but improve quality. No, I have to admit, no, looking at the PISA results, our private schools perform better than our public schools. No, for many reasons. No, size of classes, quality of teachers, being small. Being small meaning concentrated yung management in terms of quality. No, so there are good points. So we can leverage on the good points. In terms of capitalizing on the strengths of our private schools. So I just want to put that screen so that DepEd will be guided accordingly. And my last point no, to DepEd is the issue of participation rate. Dr. Bautista mentioned about Oplan Balik Eskwela. No? Yan, napakahalagang Oplan yan. I think the Brigada Eskwela is important in terms of cleanliness, but making sure our students return to school is very important. And I'll show a slide of a cohort survival rate. I've been tracking this for many years already, and our constituents should understand that our students are, outside of BARM, ito nationwide na ito, outside of BARM, no? Our students are not going back to school, no? So for every 100 student that goes to grade 1, only 51 graduates from senior high school, no? So along the way it drops. Maraming drop out. And the most common reason for this is they already look for work, they already in iba teenage pregnancies, 'di ba? Medyo problema 'yan sa atin. But if you look at this data, what is most concerning to me is grade 2 to grade 3, ang laki ng drop, no? So imagine 16% from kindergarten, from grade 1 to grade 2 already drop out of school. And then another 5% drop out from grade 2 to grade 3, no? So the bigger the number, obviously the higher the dropout, no? So my point of the matter here is as early as grade 1 to 3, we are experiencing dropout already, no? No, so I just want, and no, we're very privileged that the presidents of our superintendents, principals, even the PTAs are here. Everyone should join effort to improve the cohort survival rate of our country. No, everyone in a perfect world, senior high school graduates should be 100% rin. So my question to DepEd is, what are we doing to address this phenomena of poor cohort survival rates? I know there's Oplan Balik Eskwela, but are we doing it? How are we measuring it, and how are we intensifying it so that we will improve this issue? Anyone, Asek, do you want to answer that? And I think Dr. Bautista is also raising his hands. No?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Primarily, looking at the graph presented on the board, and really the portion where we have the transition from grade 1 to grade 2 is really alarming because it bears the highest drop in terms of enrollment. And perhaps primarily yung ating revision of the K to 10 part of the curriculum, of the K to 12 curriculum, would probably be a catalytic factor in improving these statistics on the board, particularly in the early grades of grades 1, 2, and 3. I would surmise that many of the dropouts here would be due to overloaded curriculum in the early grades. Too many competencies are being taught in the first grade level. So we have effectively, in the K to 10 revision, reduce the number of subjects back to 5 subject areas, and that already includes our subjects or sessions on reading, numeracy, and language, including GMRC. So I think that move of revising the K to 10 part of the curriculum and focusing on the foundation skills in the first key stage of elementary would be contributory to improving these particular statistics. But again, looking at it, that is a trend of going downwards, as still that should also be indicative of the kind of curriculum that we have been having that is too loaded, not too focused, and it's like an overload of information to our learners. And perhaps it's so loaded that we are depriving them of their childhood, perhaps of their opportunities to socialize with other children. So I hope that the K to 10 revision of the K to 12 curriculum would be a great help in improving this particular statistics, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that reply. I just want to again put this on the table and flag DepEd about this phenomena. It's not good. Of course, we talked about what's happening in Barm, but on a national scale, we need to improve this. We all know that if a child does not graduate from basic education, it's close to impossible to look for meaningful jobs. No? So it's important that we strive to the best of our abilities to completely graduate everyone, no, from basic education. No? So that's a call to action for DepEd and of course to all of us who are in the education sector. Dr. Bautista, you want to say something?
Yes, that's the same thread as what Asek Panchat is talking about, the accumulation of the unmastered skills or competencies of these first graders and second graders could be the prime reason why they drop out of school. Nahihirapan na sila, tapos ang susunod na grade level ay mas mahihirap pa yung mga competencies. So, ang nagiging tendency is to drop from school. And so, tama, very timely yung review at saka yung launching ng ating K-12, K-10 basic education curriculum na magsisimula sa 2024-2025. Although there will be a pilot implementation this school year para makita yung effectiveness at effectivity noong bagong ni-revise na curriculum. Thank you.
I would trust your expert opinion, Dr. Bautista, because you guys are nasa field kayo, no? You talk to our parents.
Yep.
You hear
Thank you.
their
Thank you, sir.
thoughts about this issue, and you talk to the teachers, no? Most importantly. So one of the solutions is to decongest the curriculum. And by decongesting the curriculum, students will become more confident that they are learning. I get that also from our students, that because it's so difficult, no? They lose confidence and they lose interest and they drop out, no? Because they...
And then at the same time, they will be having time to grow as a child. Yung sinasabi ng ating mga PTA kanina na magkaroon ng panahon para sa recreation din. At the same time, while learning, there will still be time for them to recreate.
I think that's a good segue to our next topic, which is the summer break or the lack of, hindi na summer ngayon, no? The rainy season break. That's the other resolution that we filed, and we want to get the thoughts of DepEd on what are the direction in terms of the school opening. And the school opening dictates the break that our students enjoy. So traditionally, I think all of us went through this. Our breaks are usually during the summer, no? April and May. No, so, but because of the pandemic, and this is not because of DepEd's doing, this is not because of anyone's doing. Because of the pandemic, we had to keep on delaying, no, and because I think in 2020 school opened October na, no, almost October. So because of that, we had to push summer, no. So I want to be guided. We all want to be guided with DepEd's thought on when should be the academic break and why is the reasoning that way, and what are the findings in this type of setup. No? We want.
Okay, I've been teaching dance sports in different schools since 2003. Then I became a PTA in 2013, ano? So, nakita ko yung problema natin dyan, and also, I also experienced it. Kasi nga po, I'm calling the attention of Superintendent PESPA in NAPSI, no? Kasi I was offered 5 pesos, no? Sa ating mga tour operators, no? But I declined it, and pinag-aralan ko paano nangyayari, no? Kasi ang PTA po natin, they don't know anything about fundraising or something. So, we need to clarify sa ating IRR, no, ng collection sa loob ng school. Dapat maklarify natin yan. Kasi on my research, no, since 2013, kasi nga naranasan ko kapag pagpasok ko ng PTA, wala kaming alam na guidelines. So kanina galing ako sa isang school kasi nga yung cleaners, no, nagbabayad ngayon ng 50 pesos ang mga bata sa cleaners. Okay? So ngayon, kinausap ko yung mga principal kanina. So, ang ano po dito, ang cases po kasi napupunta yan, kapag ka yung gastos po ng parents, ang mga bata, sinasabi po nating voluntary, for example, sa field trip, voluntary. Pero po, nagbibigay po kayo ng project kapag ka hindi po sumama. So, compulsory na po yon. So, ngayon po yung mga bata na hindi po nakakasama, ibig sabihin yan, mag-aaway sila ng magulang, mabubuli yung mga bata. So, ngayon, causing ng bullying is drop out. Okay? Ako nga po, bali nung, by experience yan, okay? 5 years ako sa high school dahil po sa field trip. So ano po yan dito ngayon? Isa po yan siguro po, tingnan po natin yung mga collections sa school. And Senator, can I ask po kasi, hindi po klaro kasi, PTA is under DepEd. Meron kaming DepEd guidelines dyan. So ngayon, yung mga collection po namin is dapat po merong resolution. So tingnan po natin yung batas na yon. Kasi nga po, lagi pong sinasabi ng ating kapag kami mga namimidya na po, ang sasabihin po ng ating mga principal at mga teacher, sasabihin nila yan, kagustuhan ng magulang na pagkasunduan. Kanina po ang topic namin kanina, sabi ko, ilang magulang lang po ang umattend. So ngayon po, okay, ating mga superintendent, tawag dito, PESPA, NAPSI, tingnan niyo po, kasi nga po, bago po pumasok ang tour operator, supplier, dadaan po sa inyo yan bago po pumunta sa PTA. What I experienced kasi sa Pasay noon dati, kapag ka may project, okay, binigay sa PTA, hindi a-approve ng PESPA, hindi a-approve ng NAPSI. So dapat lahat dadaan sa inyo. So yun po, I've been doing this na siguro since 2013. So, yun po yung and then, nasa private school po ako, karamihan po ng pera ng PTA, inuutang ng principal. At hindi na po babalik. So, ito nga po yung dito, So, andito naman tayo, andyan si Senator. Sana po, tingnan po natin ng maganda. And we are very thankful sa DepEd Central, especially ASIC Bingas, yung USEC Repsi, which andun na po kami ngayon kay USEC Lensing. Pagka nag-message po kami ng mga problema, sumasagot kagad within 2 and 5 minutes. Very interactive na po. So, nagkakaroon na po kami ng boses. So, yun po, at yun po yung mga reklamo ng ating mga PTA, so, ngayon po, ang tanong lang po namin, Senator, yung DepEd PTA po ba, okay, yung mga collection nila, labas po ba ang DepEd doon?
Well, from what I understand when I was a mayor, kasi tinanong ko rin yan and correct me if I'm wrong, ASEC, the PTA is outside of DepEd, no? It's an association. It's not even registered in the SEC. It's really a aggregation of parents. But DepEd released some memorandums to guide and to clarify the activities of the PTA and the school. Kasi nga nagkakaroon ng issue. Like for example, I know I encountered this when I was a mayor. The PTA was collecting and the parents were made to understand that it was the school who was collecting through the PTA. No? So, my experience nung mayor ako, tinanong ko yan and I was made to understand and I read the memo that anything that is collected by the PTA is outside of the school. Kaya nga, they need a resolution to formalize that collection. Now, there are cases, I think, totoo rin naman to, there are cases that a principal also works with the PTA. Like for example, may mga Christmas party or may graduation or they work with the PTA. But I think we need to be very strict that any collection of the PTA is to the account of the PTA. Hiwalay dapat ang school and PTA, no? Now when the principal works with the PTA, that should be also clarified na yung relationship na yan sa kanila yan, no? And it might violate the DepEd memorandum that no collection should be made by DepEd. Kasi the principal, baka mas ang ano ko dyan, baka sumabit yung principal because the students or the parents will understand that it's DepEd because the principal is a DepEd employee. No? So, any sign or any activity between the principal and the PTA might be misconstrued as a DepEd activity. No? But to make it simple, hiwalay dapat ang DepEd, hiwalay ang PTA.
Meron po tayong DepEd guidelines na po. Okay, ang National PT, kami po yung nag-push from 10 pages ng DepEd Order 54. So we push na nag-ano po kami na maging gayahin yung ating PTA handbook, no. So meron na po tayong omnibus guidelines, no. Ang PTA po kasi bago po mangolekta yan, so nakalagay naman sa guidelines yan, every collection should be may resolution approved by the principal. But the problem is, yung sa nangyari sa Pasay po, no, ano po dito, no, I was offered nga 5 pesos. Nung napunta naman ako sa NCR, 30 pesos. Ang sagot ko dun sa mga so inaral ko lang, ang nangyari, pinapaalis na ako sa PTA. Kasi ganun po nangyayari, no, kapag marunong na po ang PTA, pinapaalis na po. So dito po, ang sabi ko sa kanila, marami akong scholars na mumulot ako ng bata, I teach them for free, libre pagkain, libre damit. And then you're going to offer me 5 pesos commission. That's 250,000 po. Per per field trip, 6 na field trip po yung dinown ko. So ngayon, ang ano po doon, so nakikita ko po, no, especially the tour operator ng ating tawag dito, yung mga sa tour, no, okay, malaki po ang komisyonan diyan, okay, meron po yan ng dito, no, sabihin ko na po sa inyo, okay, meron pa tayong cut po yung PESPA, cut po yung NAPSI. Hindi, sinasabi ko po sa inyo yan, kumbaga at least kasi I've been investigating this for almost, nagsimula ako 2013, nakulong na po ako 2 beses for that. So ngayon, meron tayong mga reklamo sa loob ng DepEd na yung reklamo ng PTA, reklamo ng within 3 months bago sila magkaroon ng first hearing. So ngayon, may mga cases kami po doon na until now, for the collection, 7 years hindi pa po naka. So yun po yung So siguro, we need to look that po, sir, no? Kasi nga po yan ang causes ng dropout, no? Yung collection is part, di ba, no? Kasi nga po, marami tayong poorest of the poor na hindi kaya makabayad. Ang cases ko po ngayon, yung mga 3 anak, 4 na anak, tapos isingilin mo ng 700, 250 pesos, napakalaki po nun. So siguro po, tingnan po natin yung IRR ng school collection, hindi na po PTA, school collection na po.
I think we should, well, again, no, nung mayor ako, very simple lang eh. Basta sinabi ko lang, principal, bawal mag-collect, PTA, kayo kung gusto nyo kayo mag-collect, kayo mag-collect. Yun lang, ganun ka-simple lang ho. Kasi pag pumasok na ho ang pera sa school, gulo na ho yan. I'm telling you. That's as simple as that. Kung gusto nyo mag-donate ng electric fan, PTA bumili, kayo, di ba? Of course, not all PTA nagbabayad ng butaw, no? Ganyan naman talaga. But nevertheless, we're already digressing to the issue. I will ask ASEC bring us to look into this. Maybe we can update the long-standing memo. I agree with ASEC. Natagal na itong memo na ito. I know this memo. It's been there. But take a look at this issue and maybe we can reiterate. I suggest we reiterate it to our principals that the no collection policy is absolute, and there should be hands off between the PTA and the principal so that the funds will not be commingled and it will sow confusion among our parents, no? So before we end this topic, I'll call on Mr. Rosarial, and I will talk about the school opening slash academic break. Sige po, sir.
Again, good afternoon po. This is the point of a principal. I am 36 years in the service with 25 years as school principal. Ma'am, sir, please take note. Hindi po mag-approve ang PTA ang principal of any contribution ng PTA. Nasa inyo yun. Hindi po pwede na sa amin. And at the same time po, in terms of school project, excuse me, may procurement tayo, may back tayo. Sila yung gumagawa ng proceedings. May mga back committee tayo. Ang principal po, kung fiscal authority ka, ikaw po ang nag-approve. We do not do with the sabi na may mga percentage ganon. Kasi secret ba niyang trabaho ng back sa school level? Direct yun talaga. Well, with due respect, sir, that's your experience. So far in my experience as 25 years as school principal, wala naman ako problema sa akong PTA. Kasi the PTA and the principal work together para sa magandang trabaho sa eskwelahan po. By the grace of God, wala akong nakaproblema na PTA sa aking school. Salamat po.
Thank you. So on this note, ASEC will just, I'm calling on DepEd to review again the policy between the PTA and the collection. I think it's about time to review it. No, if we need to update it, then let's update it. No? But for me, when I was a mayor, it's very clear. No, so anyways, we'll move on to the school opening. This is a raging debate. It's a simple concept. Kailan ba dapat ang academic break natin? And we want to hear from DepEd their thoughts on this. Now, I know you released several memorandums on school openings from now on until, I think, 4 or 5 years from now, no? So,
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's not yet a memorandum, but it is a current study undergoing yan sa aming Bureau of Learning Delivery, which is in charge of the school calendar under the curriculum and teaching strand. But in their initial study, if ever we are going to go back to a June and following the provisions of law that we should have 200 to 220 days, and considering also the proportional vacation pay entitlement of our public school teachers, yung 2-month break, traditional 2-month break for teachers after it's or in between school year, the BLD has come up with a study or with a simulation that following the normal conditions of school days and the proportional vacation pay for teachers, it will take 5 years, ideally, 5 years to revert back to a June opening. But that is a gradual return. So if we are August this year, next year, it will be earlier August, and then we'll go to July. And finally, on the 5th year, that will be in June 2028, 2028 to 2029 is a June 5 opening. But the 2027 to 2028 is a June 21 opening. So we are looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, at least on the 5th year, magkakaroon tayo ng normalization for a June opening. That is if we are going to revert back. We also have received several proposals, one coming from the TDC, which the BLD also took into consideration, proposing a abrupt change by the following school year to June. But there are some considerations or factors that we need to consider, as I mentioned earlier, kasi it will have to sacrifice some of the vacation time of teachers. And in our line item in our budget, we do not have a budget for overtime pay for teachers because as per civil service rules, service credits lang sila allowable. So merong budget implication if we immediately go back to a June opening. So, but we have commissioned already, the curriculum and teaching has commissioned an external party to conduct a further study on how we can revert back, not probably not in the next 5 years if it's a gradual still, but on a shorter term or a shorter period of time of reversion, and considering all the other factors that I've mentioned, Mr. Chair.
Well, we were into this debate because of force of circumstance, because of the pandemic. We didn't want it to happen, but because of the pandemic, we were forced to move our school opening. Hence, the academic break also was moved. No? So, but having said that, what is DepEd's position? Do we gradually move back, whether abrupt or gradual? The important question is, what is DepEd's policy on the academic break? Do we maintain it as it is right now, or we move back to the summer? Because the reason why we have all of this debate is because if you remember, last March, and I think even onwards, there were issues of students passing out because of outdoor extracurricular activities. I think the one in Laguna were over 100 students were sent to the hospital because it was so hot, no, when they were doing their fire drill. And there were cases where in some areas, let's say in, alam naman natin, in Tugigaraw, no, in Cagayan area, Region 2, the temperatures there hit as high as 43 degrees Celsius. No? So there are cases of that, no, in our country. And that's why our parents, the PTA, sounded the alarm and requested government to look into the possibility of bringing it back, no, to the summer season. So my question is, what is DepEd's policy? No? And based on your consultation, in your study, are there benefits from staying at this type of arrangements? Because if you ask me, no, one of the benefits, and I've heard this from our principals, is not only the academic growth of our student, but also the personal growth, no? Meaning playing with their peers, spending time with their family, and you can only do that during the summer. Right now, it's rainy season, no? To be honest about it, like for example, yung mga pamangkin ko, they hardly go out because it's raining, no? So, and I see that their time to spend with their family has narrowed down, no? Because it's obviously it's raining, no? So because of the weather conditions, the time they spend in playing, learning other things, got shortened or disappeared, no? So my question is to DepEd, what is the policy? And based on your studies and consultation, what are your findings, and what are your recommendations, no, to the community and to our country?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. With regards to the first concern earlier about cases of extreme heat experienced during the summer months of the year, that's precisely why as early as April, the last week of April, April 20, we issued a directive to the field that the school heads are given really the authority to shift to non-face-to-face modalities of classes in areas where they are experiencing extreme heat, which is an intervention or a mitigation of the weather condition during those particular months. And for the DepEd, we are actually looking at 2 points, Mr. Chair. Parang the question is, are we reverting back to June really? And if we are reverting to June, really, is it going to be abruptly or is it going to be gradual? Because as I've said, it will all boil down to a question whether you want you want to have classes in the extreme heat, or you want to have classes kapag bahang-baha naman or typhoon naman yung ating season. So it's just a choice whether you want it dry or you want it wet, something like that. So those are the weather climatic conditions that we need to consider, no, before we can come up with a final position on whether we are going to go back, or if we go back abruptly or instantly or over a number of years. So, but that's the purpose really why we have commissioned an outside party to study this, so that we consider all other factors from environment to weather to teachers benefits to learners benefits and others, Mr. Chair. So
You're approaching this using an outside consultant or an outside research
yes,
team.
Mr. Chair, and ang input namin syempre yung mga nakuha naming meron din kaming internal studies which we did in April 5. We have the news reports and opinions, and then we have the positions of the organizations, teachers organizations, the PTA as well, the private schools.
What are the
Yeah.
findings of your internal study?
Okay.
What is the recommendation of their internal
The DepEd studies proposal, this is actually published in the inquiry in April 5. The Department of Education has formed a group to study the recommendation, and that is the recommendation that I read earlier, Mr. Chair, yung gradual na after 4
gradual,
years and nasa June 21 na tayo. And then we have several reports here, and then we also have on record, of course, your Pulse Asia survey, which you commissioned, where 80% of our respondents would refer going back to a June opening, and we recognize that really na marami talagang may gusto, Mr. Chair, pero yung kaagad na ibalik natin doon, ang daming mga dapat i-consider na factors, particularly so. Yung TDC nandito, sila yung nag-propose na i-shorten ang vacation ng teachers. I don't know if that will still be their position once we find out na wala man tayong pangbayad ng overtime pay. We cannot, parang ganon. So baka mamaya pag as they propose, balik tayo, baka mamaya nasaan na yung 2 buwan na bakasyon ng mga teachers. So kailangan naming i-balance lahat ng factors na yan, Mr. Chair.
Well, I'll show you the Pulse Asia study, no, since you mentioned it. In the Pulse Asia study that we commissioned, 80% agrees, no, to bring back the summer break, no, from to April and May, no, meaning reverting back to the school opening on June, no. So there's an overwhelming opinion to bring it back to the original summer break, no. Yun na yung naging kaugalian natin. It's not only also the growth of the child, but naging kaugalian, naging tradition na. In other words, no, naging tradition na natin yan for a very, very time and memorial, no, naging tradition na. So my instinct is in your internal study points to reverting back to June school opening. There's an overwhelming support from the public. I think it goes without saying that we should, no, go back to the original June school opening. And in my opinion, if you my humble opinion is we should go back to the original summer break, no. And but I do agree that it's not going to be abrupt, no, because if you study it carefully, there will be 1 year without any break, no. Hindi naman pwede yon. So we need to gradually bring it back, no. So that's my recommendation to DepEd, but I want to hear the opinion of the others. If you have any opinion, Dr.
Yeah.
Bautista, sige po.
Yeah, just the same. We would like to have it be moved to June opening of classes. However, we have to take into consideration also the welfare of the teachers, their rights as stipulated in the Magna Carta for teacher, and etc. So that will be able to really address all the concerns of the learners, the concerns of the teacher. Gusto rin naman namin mag-summer break. Senator, thank you.
Why po, Dr. Bautista? Why are you recommending to bring it back? Based on your experience on the ground, kasi nasa labas kayo eh.
Ito ang sabi ng isang, nasaan ba yung aking binasa kay Ma'am kanina? Ito, comments such as, we can much more endure the rain than the heat of the summer inside the classroom. Meaning to say, mas nahihirapan kaming magproseso ng pagtuturo at mas walang focus ang mga mag-aaral dahil sa init ng panahon. Especially during the months of March, April, and May. Thank you.
Na-miss na nga nila yung hashtag walang pasok kasi araw-araw may pasok na eh. No? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. From the PTA po, Mrs. Eileen Marquez, may I be recognized? One factor po is health. Kasi sa school po namin mismo, 30%. Alam naman natin pag summer talagang ano yung in-demand yung chicken pox. Talagang inubos yung buong section. Parang si teacher na lang yung hindi nahawa. So sabi ko nga, sir, baka ikaw na yung closing remarks. Kasi absent talaga sila. Ang tagal po, di ba, ng pag chicken pox ka, hindi yung pag nawala na yung, natuyo na yung peklat mo, yun na. According to the doctors, kailangan 14 days yun, tapos hindi pa siya natutuyo talaga kaagad. Another 14 days para ipahinga yung bata at hindi siya makahawa. Eh yung mga magulang, pinapasok po pa rin. Kaya nagkahawa-hawa, halos naubos po yung buong grade 3. Kabilang section, hawa-hawa. Kaya number 1 is health, yung mga sakit po during the summer. Isang factor po yon.
We're also joined by Pag-asa. We invited Pag-asa since most of the reasons that we detected from news reports, also from our own consultation, stemmed from weather. You know? So I would like to ask the opinion of Ms. David on this matter, or Ms. De Guzman, and also what are the trends now in summer? No? Because we've been seeing really adverse weather events globally. No, not only the Philippines but globally. Are we seeing hotter summers? Are we seeing more rainy summer, or a more inundated rainy season? So what are the trends that you are seeing, ma'am?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to everyone. Actually, Pag-asa prepared a short presentation on climatic insights on academic calendar shift in the Philippines. Actually, this study was done by Pag-asa to look into climatic factors affecting school activities like rainy season, tropical cyclone, and extreme temperature. Next slide, please. Actually, this is just an outline. I'll just discuss the climate of the Philippines, the tropical cyclone climatology, the findings of our study, and the heat index. Thank you. Next, please. Actually, the only climatic element that defines the climate of the Philippines is rainfall. And actually, you can see the climate map of the Philippines. In the western section of the country, we define that as type 1. So these areas are the ones affected by habagat. So the rainy season is very pronounced. It usually starts from around May, late May, and ends around September. And in the next type 2 climate in the eastern section, so the rainy season here is also very pronounced. So the rainy season starts November and ends around January. So for the yellow color, the type 3 and type 4 climate, the rainfall is more or less evenly distributed. So there are very distinct distinction between the west and the east, the eastern seaboards of the country. So in the eastern seaboards, there's no dry season. Next, please. In terms of the seasonal distribution, as you can see, there are two monsoon regime in the Philippines, the southwest monsoon, northeast monsoon, and you can see that the rainfall is concentrated on the western side during the southwest monsoon. And during the northeast monsoon, the rainfall is shifted in the eastern sections of the country, or what we call the eastern seaboards. Next, please. Next, please. And actually, the Philippines has no month in the Philippines is free from tropical cyclone. As you can see, these are the tropical cyclone entering the Philippine area of responsibility. And you could see only Mindanao is experienced very less tropical cyclone. But in the last 5 years, we could see that tropical cyclone is increasing in Mindanao. And in terms of intensity also, we see that 150 kph tropical cyclone are increasing. But in terms of the number, so there not much change. Next, please. So as you can see, this is the monthly and seasonal tropical cyclone passages. And you can see that June, July, August has the most number of tropical cyclone. And most of the tropical cyclone are in the northern part of the country, and October, November, December, these are landfalling tropical cyclone, and especially they cross in Metro Manila or Visayas. So most of the stronger tropical cyclone are experienced during this month, the last quarter of the year. As I've said earlier, no month is free from tropical cyclone, but the most active season for tropical cyclone is July, August, September. And in terms of intensity, most parts of the country, in terms of the category, there is more typhoon intensity entering the Philippine area of responsibility also. Next, please. So this is the year-to-year variability of tropical cyclone. Our average is 19 to 20, but there are years like in 1993 that we have 33 tropical cyclones. During El Nino years, we have fewer tropical cyclone, around 11 or 10. That's why some of the dams suffered the reduction in rainfall because of less tropical cyclone. And during El Nino years also, we experience hotter temperature, especially during the 97-98 El Nino phenomenon, the strongest in the 19th century, where we have an anomaly of 1 degree centigrade temperature. And now, as you all know, there is an ongoing El Nino, and it is predicted to go to moderate to strong during the last quarter of the year and towards the first quarter of the year. And the peak can be experienced from November to February. So El Nino means the impacts of El Nino is reduction in rainfall, but also there are stronger tropical cyclone during El Nino years because of the warm seas. So we know the tropical cyclone gets their energy from the ocean, and during El Nino years, there are more tropical cyclone of typhoon intensity. So actually, in the old calendar, graduation, actually this is the study that was conducted by one of our colleagues, that in the old calendar, usually the graduation is March, April, and the start of the classes is in June. At in the new calendar, in the new academic calendar, actually June or July is the graduation and August is the start of classes. Next, please. And the graduation ceremonies are typically done outdoor in the old AC, March to April. So maganda po ang weather. But let's see during the new academic calendar. So this is just last graduation, which was held in UP. So inulan sila. So next, please. So actually, Pag-asa did a study looking at the very wet days. Pag sinabi po nating very wet days, yun yung 90% percentile. At makikita po natin na mas madai talagang occurrence in terms of yung nasa type 1 climate na mas maraming wet days during yung June, July, August. But tingnan niyo po natin yung temperature, yung very hot days, yung 90% percentile. So more than 40% of the time. So maraing nangyayari na yung very hot days. So yung 90th percentile, the temperature ranges from 32 to 34 degrees centigrade. Kasi po, hindi pa po ito yung heat index na tinatawag natin. This is only the ambient temperature. So later, we would see yung observation ng ating heat index. So in terms of yung rainy season rainfall for type 2, so makikita natin yung very wet days, of course, during November up to January. And for type 3 climate, kasi po yung ulan nila more or less evenly distributed at saka hindi ganun kalalakas ang ulan during type 3 climate. But in terms of temperature, nakikita po natin even sa lahat ng climate types, nakikita natin yung peak ng matataas na temperature are experienced during March, April, May, and sometimes extend to June or August. Actually po sa type 2 climate kasi, ang dry season niya is around July, August Magkaiba yung nasa may eastern section. So mainit din sa kanila. Actually, there will be 2 peaks in the type 2 climate. yung March, April, May, and also July, around July, August. So next, please. Actually, next slide. Actually, in the old calendar, you could see that there are many more tropical cyclones compared to the new academic calendar. So from in the old AC, so maybe from 10 to 15, and in the new AC from 5 to 10. Next, please. So for March, March happening on a graduation day, so very slim chance of having a tropical cyclone. But on a May, June, July, August, so we will have, in terms of tropical cyclone occurrence, the probability is high. Next, please. So actually, ito po yung summary of the advantages and disadvantages of the new academic calendar against the old AC. So the advantages, fewer school days coinciding with the rainy season for rain types, climate type 1 and 3, decreased number of school days with extreme rainfall for climate 1, 2, and 3, and reduced TC-related cancellation of classes. But the disadvantage are there are more school days with extremely hot temperature for climate type 1 and 3. Graduation day coincides with the rainy season, and more likely to be affected a tropical cyclone on a graduation day, especially in most areas of Luzon. Next, please. Actually, Pag-asa has started monitoring the heat index since 2018. At ito pong heat index na to ay tinatawag nating yung init factor. The temperature feels like when the human body, when the relative humidity is combined with air temperature. So next, please. Actually, ito po yung observation natin. This is the heat index for March. So makikita po natin na asa ano siya, yung extreme caution between 20, around, what's the data? Malabo. Between 33 to 41 degrees centigrade. So next, please. So as we go through April, so mas dumadami na po yung may danger, extreme caution, yung danger kasi nagkakaroon na siya ng orange. From 42 to 51 degrees centigrade yung ano niya, heat index. So heat cramps and heat exhaustion are likely and heat stroke is probable. Lalo po yung mga, kung exposed po doon sa mga strenuous activities outside. So kasi po meron din yung pamangking ko nag-ano sila foundation day. So meron silang suot ng mga nakasaya, 7 kilometro yung nilakad nila sa so dapat po sana yung mga ganong activities ay iniiwasan ang init-init noon. So it was said I think around May. So next, please. So, ayun po, as high as 49 degrees po nakaka-measure tayo by May. So actually, May is the highest when it comes to the hottest month. So doon natin nakikita yung matataas na temperature. So ayan. So next, please. Actually po, ito yung in terms of yung computed heat index natin for type 1 climate, so ito yung 5-year running average. So actually po, talagang siya yung average, yung deviation from the mean, minsan nasa 30 up to 45 degrees, 35 to 40 from March to May and up to early June for type 1 climate. So next please. For type 3 climate, yung 35 to 45 and nag-extend din po yan late August. So makikita natin meron pang observation some reaches 50 yung heat index niya. And next please. For type 2 climate, actually kahit po wala silang dry season, pero umaabot din yung heat index nila by, mataas during the summer months. Next, please. And for type 4, sa Mindanao area, yung green color, so actually, ganun pa din po. So halos buong Pilipinas po, yung heat index ay nandun sa gitna, yung extreme caution. From actually nga, yung actually during the summer months. So I think that is my last slide. And in terms of trends, actually po, yung trends po natin ng temperature is also increasing. Increasing. Umiinit na po. Yung meron tayong very hot days, tumataas yun in terms of yung frequency ng hot days natin. And even yung mga extreme rainfall. So, kita po natin na yung average temperature of the Philippines for the last 75 years ay tumaas na ng around 0.75. So, yung global po ata is around 1.1. So, for the Philippines, it's 0.75 degrees.
Thank you, Ma'am De Guzman, for that very comprehensive and enlightening presentation. So, in short, we only have two options. No, mabasa yung bata o mapawisan yung bata. No, so, yun lang yung two options natin. Kasi if we maintain our academic calendar now, obviously there will be schools during summertime, which is, as what we have seen, our learners will experience extreme heat. No, in some cases, in some areas, not naman nationwide. If we move it to our original academic calendar, the trade-off there is they will experience rains and there will be more class cancellations. No? So I know it's a policy issue, but based on my consultation also with our teachers, our parents, and also the usual activities. Like for example, when I was young, and ito nakita ko, no? For example, sa DepEd ngayon, in-implement na. When I was young, I remember for summers, I usually take other courses in schools. No? So you have socialization with other kids, you play with your cousins, you go to school and learn other skills. So there are benefits. But right now, because it's raining, I noticed may mga pamangkin ko, they don't do that because umuulan eh. No, it's traffic pag umuulan, ah. No, like yesterday, lakas ng ulan, traffic. So the lifestyle has changed eh. And my analysis there, although wala akong empirical study, is it's affecting also the growth of the child. No, so that's my observation. So that's why in my instinct is saying, since prior to the pandemic, no one is complaining to move it. Diba? Wala naman nagko-complain prior to pandemic to move it to June, July, August break. Then let's revert back to the original because we're used to it. No one is complaining, and there are much more side benefits on that arrangement. No, but I think looking at the weather, just the weather alone, no, what I'm seeing there is there are more issues of tropical cyclones, rains. Very difficult to move around because of the rains. I think that presentation is telling us that it's much more complicated for students, for learners to go out of their homes when the rainy season arrives. No, and also I heard tama ba, Ma'am De Guzman, that the rainfall now is much more greater. Increase. Yeah, ma'am, can you use that? No?
In intensity po, yung mga extremes natin.
Yeah. So in other words, it's very difficult to go out of your homes because of the intensity of the rains. No. So that's why my recommendation is to revert back. No. But not. I admit it. We cannot do it in 1 year or 2 years because you have to gradually move it back. No. So that it will be much, kumbaga, mas malinis, much more smoother to go back to the original schedule. No? Any comment on this matter? Yes, Ma'am Sibal?
Receivable po from NPTA. So ako po, let's look, since I'm also an educator and a parent at the same time, I'd like to look at it at a developmental approach. Parang nag-start yung pasukan, tapos yung suspension, nakapag-stable, yung parang it provides our learners with adjustment. Remember, pag nabigla silang tuloy-tuloy. So I'd rather that the suspensions happen in the start of the year so that they will have like parang it's also an adjustment period for them rather than having it in actually in the middle. And another consideration po is so at least it's kind of gradual as they ease in to the school. And in our standpoint is also regardless of the school opening being in August or in March, and I think we want to emphasize it, is that there should be already mechanisms in place. We are not only acknowledge suspensions. So first and foremost, look into the policies already considering long-term and short-term suspensions due to natural disasters, not just in rainfall, but also in natural disasters. The second is, of course, we acknowledge the provisions for other alternative modes, just in case of suspensions, like asynchronous tasks or blended learning modalities for learners, particularly in anticipation of suspensions. And then the other consideration is, of course, considering these weather conditions, is if it transcends to summer or whatever, there should be mechanisms already in place to consider the weather. So kung rainy season, provisions for cleaning para walang dengue. Tapos kung summer naman, may ventilador, may tubig yung mga bata. And also siguro the other consideration is also the monitoring on the health status of the learners. Not just yung kanilang heat, kasi heat strokes are really prevalent during the summer period, but not also the heat, but the monitoring also of vector-borne diseases that include dengue, yung mga heat diseases. So anything that will affect the health status of the learners should also be consistently monitored, and we would look hopefully support the PTA also will support DepEd into looking for solutions really to support our learners. Kasi talaga pong importante that nabanggit kanina na kung hindi komportable ang bata, may iniindang sakit, o hindi siya komportable, sobrang init sa classroom and anything, hindi po talaga optimal yun. Wala din siyang matututunan kahit anong pilit natin. It's not about just the number of days, but also the comfort level of the learners and the teachers also to deliver learning. Maraming salamat.
Thank you. And I'll segue to DICT because we're talking about alternative delivery modes, meaning online learning, distance learning. But we all know in our public schools, it's very challenging. No? So I would like to ask the ICT on the internet coverage of our schools, also the implementation of the internet in public places, no, that covers our schools, and what is being undertaken by the ICT to improve connectivity also in our schools, just in our schools, no?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding connectivity, Mr. Chair, unfortunately, I would not be able to provide you with the details because the project manager that is handling the connectivity is in another House hearing, House of the Representative hearing. I'm handling a project which is what we call the Digital Transformation Center or the Tech for Ed Center. And based on the census, I'm skipping already. I have a presentation, but I'm focusing only on several slides. Based on the census that we had way back 2020-22, we have about, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Chair, we have about 2,848 Tech for Ed centers that are located in schools. Now, based on the census, Mr. Chair, only about 1,193 are operational, and the 1,655 is non-operational. Mr. Chair, when we say operational, there are existing computers in these schools that can be used by the teachers for, and then there's also available connectivity, and there's an existing center managers. Non-operational would mean there's no existing computers, or there might be problems regarding connectivity, and etc. And these are all partner. This is in partnership with the SDS, the supervising division head, and there's a MOA between the DICT and the SDS, DepEd SDS on this matter. So DICT, Mr. Chair, is planning to do further assessments, especially for this operational Tech for Ed centers that are located in the schools. And based on the assessment, then we can probably come up with a plan or proposal on how we can strengthen these Tech for Ed centers in these schools, or what we call the digital transformation in these schools, Mr. Chair. It's just that with the limited resources that the ICT has, especially for the digital transformation centers, the budget that we have is focusing on the ICT-owned digital transformation centers. And since these are located in schools, we are looking in terms of partnerships with the local government units, or even that of the PTAs, or even that of the private sector within the area, Mr. Chair. So it's our way of providing support to our learners and teachers. It's through providing facilities and in terms of equipment, and also including connectivity. And we also have what we call the online platform. In the online platform, we have courses that the learners and the teachers can access. And in this online platform also, Mr. Chair, we are coordinating with the DepEd so that they also have this online materials. I think that we can also link that with our online platform in the Tech for Ed centers, Mr. Chair.
I understand these Tech for Ed centers are computer labs. Is that?
Mr. Chair, we are transitioning the Tech for Ed centers that we have known before. We have 4 types of digital transformation centers. If you can show on the screen, I think it's slide 1 or 2. Sige pa. Yan, sorry. There are 4. Next slide na lang. We have 4 levels of digital transformation centers. Yung ating pong Tech for Ed in schools, these are in either level 1, mostly level 1 to, Mr. Chair. So these are digital community center that are minimal po yung mga number of computers that are in these schools. And level 2, Mr. Chair, would be, paano yung next slide na lang, sorry. Next slide. Sorry, ito po. Ito yung example po. Yung level 1 po natin, which is mostly nandun po sa mga schools po natin, isang room, may 2 workstation, including a PWD workstation. This is the proposed, Mr. Chair, in the current census that we did right now. Hindi pa po nami-meet itong standard na to. So we are trying to strengthen po sana yung ating existing Tech for Ed center in schools to be up into this standard. Because before kasi to, Mr. Chair, there are only about 2 or 3 or maximum of 5 computers in the schools. Usually nandun po sa mga libraries or in their school lab.
I have a slide here. No, I got it from the Basic Education Information System, slide 7. There's still a lot of our schools, almost a third. No, for example, in elementary, 37% of our schools do not have internet. Junior high school, 29%. Senior high school, 32% still do not have internet. So system-wide is about 35%. That still do not have internet. No? So these are the number of schools nationwide, and we all know internet now is a basic right in international parlance, and also a necessity to jump into the 21st century. So is DICT working with DepEd, or does DICT have any intervention to improve connectivity? This is just in schools, so we're not even talking about at home. At home, iba pang story yan. At home, it's even worse, no? But just in schools, so that our schools can leapfrog to the 21st century. Does DICT have any program to improve connectivity in our schools?
As I understand, Mr. Chair, a part of our connectivity program is to provide internet or free Wi-Fi in public schools. It's just that I don't have the number right now. I can ask the project manager of the connectivity team to send to you the latest report. But we do have, yes, Mr. Chair, plan for connecting schools, especially these are part of the RA 10929, and the schools is included in the target areas for free Wi-Fi.
I would assume most of these are GIDA areas, in geographical
Yes,
isolated
yes, that the priority.
areas.
Yes, the priority, Mr. Chair, would be in GIDA areas.
So how do you address the GIDA area schools? I would assume ito GIDA areas na. The one na internet, walang problema tayo sa schools, no? What technology is available for DepEd to utilize, and what program or what project can DICT offer? Because these are very technical na eh. Hindi na siya yung wiring and then, you know.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have different implementation strategies, Mr. Chair. Apologies because I don't know which area, which type of technology is being used, but the way I understand, Mr. Chair, we are utilizing several types of technology, and that would include satellite as well. It's just that I'm not aware which area is using the satellite or which area is using the wireless and which one.
Yeah,
And
I had a
fibers.
chat with Secretary Ivan Uy, and he mentioned that there are a lot of satellite-based companies
Yes.
setting up shop here in the Philippines. So DepEd can use those technologies, but of course they're very technical. So I would like to request from DICT to link up with DepEd and see
Yes,
how
Mr. Chair.
we can use those technologies to power all of these schools. Because
Exactly.
you know, my impression of this slide is some of our schools are still in the primitive ages. Now, without internet connectivity, then we're not moving forward. No? And these are basic requirements now in any educational institutions. No? So we'd like to request from the ICT to work with DepEd, work with ASEC Bringas to connect all of our schools, no, with internet now. No?
Especially sa mga lugar na challenge masyado.
Yeah, especially with GIDA area. So it's not enough to digital transform, but also to connect them. No? Yeah, go ahead, sir. Kung mayroon kayong
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I really want to take the opportunity because we are talking about internet connectivity. And in BARM, maybe this is one good points where we can possibly ask help from the good chair and of course with the DICT. Because statistic will tell us that in BARM, when it comes to connectivity, we have a total of elementary school 2,247. Only 52% of which, 52.83% has connectivity for elementary school. And for junior high school, with a total of 353, the percentage is 51.84%, insofar as data is concerned. And for the senior high school, Mr. Chair, the total number is 224. 52.23% has internet connectivity. So we really want to take the opportunity. This is a very good chance for us to be heard about our predicament, and possibly one good reason why children cannot possibly entice with the connectivity issue in most of our schools in the Barn region. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
for that. And again, we'd like to urge the DICT to work with DepEd and with BARM. Being the chairman of this committee, my view is internet is a basic requirement right now, no? Especially in our schools. And we cannot talk about digital transformation without internet connectivity in our schools. No? And I know the technology is already available. The good thing is, the technology is already available in our country. It's just a matter of government rolling it out and making it accessible to our schools environment, also our schools in the GIDA areas. No? So we want to put that on record. No? Yes, Mr. Rosarial.
and the secondary school experience, ito yung talagang totoo. We are asking the help of the ICP. Pero sa totoo lang po, sir, we want to say the state sa public school. Yung sa opisina lang po ng principal at yung sa computer lang po ang available ng internet. Out of 5,000 students po, more or less ang maka-access lang doon, 300, 500, pero hindi maka-access lahat, sir. Yung totoo lang po nangyari sa field. Sa opisina lang po, at sa ilang opisina lang sa computer room, etc. But they cannot access sa lahat. Kaya nga, we need to collaborate with PTA. Paano ba natin ito matulungan? Kasi we cannot just wait on the government help. Kailangan din namin kasi on the part of the PTA, gusto nila matulungan lahat ang mga estudyante. Sabi nga nila, bakit ganito lang po? Out of 5,000, only 500 or 700 ang maka-recipient ng kwan. Gusto ng mga parents ng lahat po, ma'am. Sana po matulungan kami. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, sir. So my last question to DepEd is, handa na ba tayo? On August 29, are we ready to open schools?
Yeah, we are, Mr. Chair. We are ready to open August 29. If I may just share, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
quickly.
Yes. Go ahead.
We also have this data coming from SEMIO on the opening of classes for the Southeast Asian countries. It might help your committee in.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So we have Brunei, they start in January. Cambodia, they start in October. East Timor, February. Indonesia, July. Laos, September. Malaysia, January. Myanmar, June. Philippines, August. Singapore, August. Thailand, June. Vietnam, September.
Do you have any, I don't know if it's in their records, but do you have any analysis on why they chose those dates? Kasi parang from what I hear, it's different. Eh.
Yeah.
May January, may
We
September.
will
Is
connect with Simeo, Mr. Chair,
Yeah, is
and
it
find
connect-
out the reasons why they open in different months.
Yeah. Is it
during the
connected to weather? Is it connected to religious holidays? Some of them are
Yeah.
Muslim nations, no? Is it
Yeah,
connected
Mr.
to
Chair.
that? So it's good to understand why they chose those dates. No?
Yes. Okay, we'll do that, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
So with that, yes, Ms. Sibal,
Very,
you have the last
very
word.
quickly, just on the point of the technology, because I went to GIDA areas and remote areas late last year in a project with UNICEF and Galing Pook. And we did notice as we address the technology issue, sana po in the reopening, we also consider if the facilities are there. Because I went to remote areas over around the period of August to October, wala pong computer yung eskwelahan mismo. I actually had to donate to a couple of schools in Zamboanga because when I went there, there was none. And then we were asking them, there was no connection over the mountain, but it's not a matter of a connection. It's a matter of there's no technology. And then I personally went to some areas where there's really no signal, to the point that they put the mobile Wi-Fi into the flagpole. And then they raised the flagpole and every morning, and kasama po sa flag retreat yung mobile internet for the connectivity of the school. I think because it's not just a matter of education, it's also a matter of security. There were some areas who report that there might be some satellite areas that are being put up by telcos and the DICT, but these are kind of medyo po ng armed conflict thing because of the communication side. So I think on the line of providing technology, the other is also ensuring that there is a safe and security way of putting these technologies in place as well. Because I think that the challenge really is, despite putting all the internet there, if there's no facilities that the learners and the teachers can use, not just in the office, as Mr. said, because I've actually personally noticed that they say, yes, there is connectivity, but the only ones who have access to connectivity are the school offices and not the learners. So I think the other question is, when you answer, is there connectivity in the school? Who is actually has access to that? Because it might be, yes, there is internet, but that's not accessible to the learner. And the technology is, there is a computer, yes, but it is only in the office and that is not accessible to the learner. Because, I mean, in answering these particular demographic questions, not just in the GIDA areas, but also in general in education, we have to make sure that the accessibility is not to the learners, not just for learning purposes and not for administrative purposes. So thank you very much, sir.
You, Ms. De Guzman?
Yes, sir. Gusto ko lang ibalik doon sa schedule po ng school year. Ano po? Of course, we acknowledge yung pagbasa o pagtingin din ng ng DepEd ni ASIC Bringas doon po sa aming letter, no, dated June 7. Kasama po nito ang proposed schedule sana, no, na different school year na magsisimula sana ngayong school year 2023-2024. Nakalagay po doon that pwede nating i-consider po yung mga Saturday asynchronous classes to shorten, no, pero hindi naman mababawasan yung number of school days ng mga bata. At mababawasan ang summer vacation ng mga teachers, pero pwede naman po itong gawing leave credits para sa mga teacher. So if those proposed schedules po ay mapagbibigyan by 2025 and year 2025-2026, babalik na po tayo sa sa previous nating school calendar.
I agree with that, Ms. De Guzman. That's why my recommendation to DepEd is number 1, balik na tayo sa original summer break, regional academic calendar. But let's do it gradually. Maybe 1 or 2 years, no?
Yes, sir.
I think 1 or 2 years kaya na yan, no? Yeah. Or the most is 3, tama. The most is 3. So, but the point is, let's already start the transition plan, no? All right. So with that, I thank everyone for your time. Maraming salamat for your insights and candidness, and maraming salamat. We're looking forward to hearing from you again in the next hearing. Thank you.
Salamat,
This
sir.
hearing is hereby adjourned.